Good morning. Welcome in on this Friday to Hurrdat Sports Radio. I'm Ravi, Lulla, Andrew Rogers with me as well.
Good morning.
What's up, man?
We are feeling it. It is the final show before the holiday break, so we're mixing in a little holiday cheer.
Not like
today.
the adult holiday cheer with like the eggnog, like spiking the eggnog.
Nope, nothing like that. Nope.
Family-friendly holiday cheer.
Well,
probably.
At least the nice portion of our show. We may have a naughtier segment coming your way where we have to hand out some coal.
Yeah, listen, not everybody's on the nice list. All right, not everybody's on the nice list.
Santa knows. He checked it twice.
Allegedly.
Shane checked it 3 times.
Probably. That sounds about right. We have a few guests that I think are
on the nice list Shane.
This week. We've got our guy Damon Benning up at 8 a.m. Mike Sautter definitely on the naughty list.
Yeah, no doubt.
Without a doubt. And I think Vrzal could beat me up, so I'm going to put him on the nice list as well. Those are our guests today as we send you into your holiday weekend.
Sautter probably thinks he could beat you up too.
Yeah, he certainly can't.
He does have an irrational confidence
he does.
Me, but I think I can see my fate through the looking glass and
with arms wide open.
If we were doing a traditional wrestling match, he might be able to beat me because he's got a wrestling background.
He does.
I don't know.
Even though, I tell him all the time, I'm like, Sautter, let's go right now. I'll kick your butt. Like, let's go, right? And he will lose his ever-living mind.
I do.
Like, he'll be like, move the chairs, let's go. Come on.
Yeah. He's always ready to fight. Like, always. And not always a smart move for him. I'm just saying, I don't think he understands.
I'm going for that right knee.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I'm just kicking that thing out immediately. I don't think he understands, like, this sounds like jerky, but I don't think he understands,
beef?
Like, I'm not just a big guy. Like, I don't think he understands how strong I am. Like, even though I don't know how to wrestle at all, he'd have a hard time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying I'd win a regular wrestling match, but he would have a hard time.
I think I could beat Sautter on endurance. He has the length, no doubt. And if he got his hands, on me, then I probably will go down and get pinned.
Sure.
Because I'm not as squirmy.
Yeah.
But you know what? If I can evade the whole time, that's what I'll shoot for.
We'll have to ask him which of us he thinks he can beat up here.
Oh, he would say me.
He would say, well, he'd probably
absolutely.
He'd probably say both. Let's be honest.
No, well, he may look at you and say, no, I know Ravi's background, and I may not want to test that, but Andrew, no doubt. But that's a good thing. Sautter and I, different weight classes, although maybe not, because Sautter is a very, very skinny man.
I would say you guys might be close. I think you might be close.
Sounds about right.
I think he says he's 170. I don't know.
No shot, right? Because of his height, like that alone gives you like 20 pounds.
Yeah, because he's tall.
He's probably like 185, 190.
No, I think he's 170. That's what he says he is.
Way.
Yeah, I would buy that.
All right, we'll ask him.
We'll have to ask him when he gets on here. We'll just stop talking about him randomly. We'll talk to Mike Sautter at 9 a.m. Lots going on in the high school sports world. He's been covering college basketball as well, so we'll get his takes there. I know he was at that Nebraska, North Dakota game on Wednesday.
At Bell West Side last night, top 2-3 matchup in Class A.
Absolutely. So tons to talk about with Sautter. Before we get into any of that, I don't know if you saw yesterday, Andrew. Actually, I do know you saw because you sent it to me.
But for the audience, a dramatic effect.
For the mystery of hosting a radio show. I don't know if you saw yesterday, Andrew, but Kirk Ferentz had some things to say unprompted.
Out of nowhere.
About Dylan Raiola, and doesn't even have the decency to say his name out loud. Just living rent-free in Kirk Ferentz's head, Nebraska, and Dylan Raiola. If you didn't hear it, basically
Shane's got the clip.
Oh, Shane, yeah. Can you go ahead and play that Ferentz clip?
A concern for me, not a deal breaker, but a concern if any of our coaches come in and start talking about a guy who's been in 3 high schools in 3 years. Those kinds of things are just things you need to get answers for, I think.
So that was totally unrelated to anything they had really talked about.
That was the question.
Yeah, the question was like, hey, your recruiting class was basically wrapped up in July. Like, is it kind of nice to have it wrapped up so early, not have to worry about like signing day flips and stuff like that? And let me first of all just say, when no one else wants your players, yeah, the signing day's not very dramatic.
It's pretty blank for you.
And listen, I get that Iowa's been better than Nebraska, so this is not what that conversation is.
Doesn't mean they're fun to watch.
And that's a credit to the coaching and development that they do in Iowa City. Because let me read you off the last 10 years of recruiting rankings.
Hit me.
Okay? 43, 50, 39, 27, 35, 45, 40, 41, 47, 59.
Look, they win games.
They win games. And with those recruiting rankings, to win games is incredible, right? But they are not getting good players. Not on the front end.
And if you look over the past 2-3 years, it's noticeably seen that they are going downhill offensively.
Yep.
And they are still on the rise defensively.
Right. And that's a lot of that defensive bump is from those 3 years from 3, 4, and 5 years ago. So you've got a lot of veteran guys that was the only classes that they had in the last 10 years below or better than 40th ranked, was that 3-year stretch. And so that would have been 22, 21, and 20. Those guys are just aging out of the program now. And outside of that, they're all 40s or higher. You've got a couple in the 50s there. And here's the other thing is, as all of their good players that they recruit for the most part are on defense.
Right.
Even the offensive line has seen a dip for Iowa. That's part of the reason the offense has gotten so bad, because they never got skill players. Pretty much never. Maybe they'd get a running back here or there. Maybe they get a functional quarterback here or there. They pretty much never got skill position players, but the offensive line buoyed that unit up enough that you could get a running game going with a below average to mediocre running back. You could protect your quarterback long enough to find one of those incredible tight ends, which is about the only position on offense they've consistently recruited well at. That's gone because the offensive line has started to take a dip. I think because Brian Ferentz's focus has been so much on trying to get the offense going, he hasn't been able to focus on the offensive line, where he's actually a great coach. And so you've seen that dip, and they don't have the talent to make up for it. They just don't have the pure talent. So when he's out here talking about, oh yeah, we don't have a lot of drama, and because you're not swimming in the deep waters, Kirk. Like, let me just start there.
And look, Nebraska isn't either. Nebraska was fortunate that Dylan Raiola had a previous connection to the university.
But even without Dylan Raiola, I get that they're not swimming in Alabama's waters. They're consistently swimming in the 20s. Like, that's where Nebraska lives.
Oh, yeah. Nebraska's recruiting rankings are there. And look,
consistently 20 to 25 spots higher than where Iowa is. So even though Nebraska's not in Alabama, Georgia waters, we're not in the kiddie pool either.
I think Kirk Ferentz is feeling a little like they're starting to fall behind Nebraska in terms of development based on what you just mentioned about the recruiting rankings. And it won't be long until the Huskers consistently win the game against Iowa.
Absolutely.
It won't be long because these recruiting rankings just don't happen by mistake.
No.
There's a reason that certain guys are listed with certain stars. And yes, it's not a perfect system, but for the most part, it's pretty flawless. You're not just given this ranking and then you're not a 4-star and then you end up being like a 2-3 star in the portal. You're not a 5-star and end up being a 3-star later on. It's not too often that happens.
There's a reason that since the start of the recruiting era, no team has won a national title that has been outside the top 15 in the recruiting, that hasn't had a top 15 recruiting class within the 4 years prior to them winning that national title. That is a fact, okay? So you might miss on individuals with the recruiting services. You might miss on guys here or there, but as a whole, they're accurate.
And let's not forget that the new and improved looking Big Ten is not going to be nice to Iowa.
No.
Where they sit today, where we know they are offensively, like I looked up last night, they averaged 16 points a game last season. And granted, that also includes what Cooper DeJean was able to do on special teams and defensively for that team. So I don't even know offensively how many points they averaged because they only had a couple of games where they scored like
multiple offensive touchdowns,
right? Yeah, or in the high 20s. The whole point of this too is if you don't improve at all, if you don't look like you have any sort of guidance on offense, how do you think you're going to get a guy like Dylan Raiola, who's been to 3 high schools in 3 years and ends up wanting to go to Iowa? You're not going to get anybody that wants to step foot in that program because they know it's just a wasteland for offensive players right now.
And I mentioned this before when the Dylan Raiola thing cropped back up.
Outside of tight ends.
Yeah. I mentioned this before when the Dylan Raiola thing cropped back up for Nebraska, and people were kind of unsure if he was going to come or not, so they were still sort of like picking at him a little bit, and they would bring up the high school thing. And I promise you, I know people around here, and this is not an insult because I shouldn't pay attention either, but I'm a dork. People around here don't pay as much attention to college basketball recruiting. They figure out who Nebraska and Creighton are going to sign, and then they kind of move on from there. But the top guys in college basketball recruiting switch high schools all the time. It is not even newsworthy anymore because it used to be like this. They'd be like, he's kind of, he'd be coming out of the draft as a one and done. They'd be like, he went to 3 high schools in 4 years. I don't know how I feel about that. And
LaMelo Ball went overseas. Should we really make him the 3rd overall pick?
Yeah, it would be something that they would talk about like a decade, maybe 15 years ago. Now it's as common as anything. They don't even care. It doesn't get brought up. This is not,
because if you're a player, you're a player.
And listen, people are trying to put themselves in the best position to be successful at the next level. Like that is, if you're one of those guys, whether you're in basketball, whether you're Dylan Raiola or whatever, I also think it's more common in college football than we realize, but we care about it when it's a quarterback and we don't care about it when it's some other positions. But it's become such a non-factor in the NBA draft. And I don't know, and college recruiting in general, I don't know why people are making such a big deal about it in football. I don't know if it's because it's the quarterback position and you're like, we need him to be a leader and whatever. But listen, it's not any different than what we're seeing in the transfer portal in college now. I mean, you see guys on their 3rd and 4th schools, and some people don't like that. But again, you're trying to put yourself in the best position to be successful. That is your job as a kid. And listen, it doesn't happen as much for this reason, but if you're switching schools for academics, nobody cares.
Well, and also his last high school that he attended was in the school or was in the state where he was projected to go to college.
Yeah, where he was committed to go. That's why.
So family's going to want to be close to that.
Yeah, he moved there, honestly, to get a better feel for Georgia and to kind of ingratiate himself in the community. This is not a situation where he was some disgruntled kid looking for playing time. He was the best quarterback recruit in the country. He could play wherever he wanted.
And he wanted to play to win a championship somewhere. So why would you be wanting to ask a lot of questions when a guy like that walks into your room if he's trying to put himself in the best position to win a championship anywhere he goes?
And you could tell.
Because when he left, what was it, Chandler? That was his sophomore year when he won the title.
Yeah, I believe so.
When he left, that he looked at that team and was like, I don't know if we're going to win in 2 years, right? And then so he's like, I'm going to go to this. Let's speak to the family. Let's go to a different spot and get you in a better position to set you up for your future.
Well, and the other thing is, I think it has to be mentioned that if you're a guy like Dylan Raiola and you're trying to put yourself in a situation where you can be ready to go day one, there are certain places that prepare you for that better than others, right? Like playing Texas high school football probably prepares you better to be a day one Division I starter than playing in Idaho, for instance. Like playing in I believe the second highest class in Georgia is where Buford was.
Around the Georgia coaches and all that jazz.
It's going to make you more ready to play day one as a freshman at Division I football than it is to play in a small class in Arizona. And I don't know if Chandler is that or not, but I do know that Georgia is more competitive football than Arizona. Because look at the recruits that come out of Georgia, look at the recruits that come out of Arizona. That's not a hot take. But I think what this comes back to with Kirk Ferentz is a total inability at this point in his career to connect and understand with what young people are going through now. The world of high school and college athletics has changed so dramatically. And listen, I was a little worried about it with Coach Rule. If I was worried about one thing, because he's got kind of an old school mentality, right? But you've mentioned earlier this week, a lifelong learner and willing to do what is necessary to win. As long as it doesn't break who he is as a person, which I think is what he's kind of intimated at what happened at Carolina. He sacrificed some of what he believed in for what he thought he needed to do to be successful at the NFL level. And I think he learned that lesson. He's not going to do it again. That doesn't mean you can't change with the times. Like we saw, it's like, yeah, we're going to go out and And if we need to go get somebody from the portal, we'll go get somebody from the portal. But I still think high school recruiting is the best way to go. Not to say he's not going to use the portal, right? But he's going to do things his way. We've seen him use the portal last year. They brought in 12 guys. They've got one guy right now. I wouldn't expect that number to get more than about 3 or 4 for this year. I would expect maybe some wide receiver help, maybe some running back help, and maybe a veteran quarterback that's not going to push, that's not necessarily expecting to start, right? Outside of that, he's going to do things his way. But the difference between him and Kirk Ferentz, first of all, is like 40 years in age. But it's probably like 25, but whatever. But
who's counting?
Yeah, I mean, Kirk is pretty old. Looks a little bit like the Crypt Keeper, if we're being honest. But
ouch.
But the difference between Kirk Ferentz and Matt Rule is, yes, they both have an old school mentality. Kirk Ferentz is stuck in his ways, though.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's there's
because he knows what works.
Well, he knows what has worked.
That's what I mean. He knows what works for Iowa, so that's why he does it. What he's not taking into account is that conference realignment is not going to be nice to Iowa in how they play.
And not just conference realignment, transfers, NIL, the whole change, everything that's changed in college football, which those are the big 3, right? Everything that's changed in college football, his inability to understand what that means for his program.
And connect was a huge word that you just used.
Yeah, his ability to connect with young people and what they want and what they're looking for now. And like, if he doesn't want to change, that's fine, but you have to understand that's probably going to come at the cost of your program. Like it came at the cost of his program that he didn't want to move on from his son, Brian Ferentz. Like that came at the cost of wins for his program.
It's why we talk about and have talked about this with Scott Docterman before of, is this Kirk Ferentz's last year or not? Is he going out with Brian? Is he going to stay? And people seem inclined that he's going to stay for like maybe 3 years.
However long he feels like, basically, which I think he's going to be. I mean, he's always kind of seemed miserable. Like he's never, but he is going.
But we'll see. We'll see after 1 year if he can handle all of these changes, because why even go as far and stoop as low as he did yesterday? To take
totally
a random thought and add it into an answer that didn't even apply to the question. You know, and it's funny because you can defend Kirk Ferentz in any way you want out there. Whoever wants to be a Kirk Ferentz sider, and in this case, do it. I'll hear your point. Here's where you can't convince me that he wasn't talking about Dylan Raiola. How many other recruits nationally have done what Dylan Raiola has done at the high school level, jumping from 3 schools in 3 years? Like, how many nationally have you heard about that has done 3 high schools in 3 years?
From a college football standpoint?
No, so what I'm saying is in this class, because that's what we're talking about, this recruiting class, nationally, how many of the signees, again, nationally, have you heard went to 3 high schools in 3 years?
Off the top of my head, I'm not sure.
You've only heard 1.
Yeah.
You've only heard Dylan Raiola's name attached to that claim because he's one of the highest recruits out there nationally. So when he brings up this point, who do you think he's talking about? I don't care if he stayed generic in his answer and didn't actually name drop DR. You know that's who he's talking about, and you know Iowa is Nebraska's rival, and so you know he's going to take a jab when he can.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really believe it's because he doesn't like I don't think it has anything to do with Dylan Raiola. I think it has everything to do with Kirk Ferentz is old man screaming at clouds, and he doesn't like the way the world is changing in his line of work.
Yeah, but he also wouldn't have brought it up if it weren't Nebraska.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
If this was Alabama, he wouldn't have said a thing.
No, because it's somebody in his backyard that he's going to have to deal with, right? And he knows he's going to have to deal with it, and it probably scares him a little bit to have to, because I know for a fact, right? I don't know for a fact. I shouldn't have said it that way. I can say with a pretty good amount of conviction that a guy like Scott Frost did not scare Kirk Ferentz. He knew he could out-prepare Scott Frost. He knew that he could out-coach Scott Frost. He knew he could out-develop Scott Frost. Didn't matter that Nebraska got better players under Scott Frost because Kirk Ferentz knew all those things. Probably knew those same things about Mike Riley as well. And before that, Bo actually beat him occasionally, right? But the last 2 head coaches before Matt Rule, he probably wasn't too scared of Nebraska, right? I think he sees the way Matt Rule operates. That's probably a little scary for him. And then he sees him get a quarterback of this caliber in addition to the way he operates. That should be very scary.
A quarterback
for Kirk
of this
Ferentz.
caliber who, to a team that hasn't won 10 games in how many years?
Right.
And that's exactly what Iowa has done over the past how many years?
And frankly, he's probably a little jealous.
And you know what? That's where I think it stems from a little bit of salty.
Yeah.
Like he's salty about how things played out and how Nebraska has been able to consistently recruit over the last 2 seasons when they got a coach in there like Matt Rule.
And it's probably frustrating to him that kids don't want to come play for Iowa despite the fact that Iowa's been better. Because let's be honest, Nebraska and Iowa recruit in a lot of the same pools. And in those years, what are those years that I told you that they recruited better? 39, 27, 35. What do those have in common? 2022, 2021, and 2020. What was happening in that time frame for Nebraska?
A lot of turnover, a lot of turmoil.
It was Scott Frost, right? Scott Frost was there. Those were his last.
First, I thought COVID, and then I'm like, okay, what happened after COVID?
Those were his last 3 years at Nebraska. 2021, their best recruiting class in the last decade, number 27 in the country, is like peak. Is Scott Frost staying or not?
Mm-hmm.
Is he going to be fired or not? Those guys are in the same pool that Nebraska recruits from, especially in the linemen and on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, Nebraska lost a really good tight end out of Pierce because of all the changeover last year and Ben Bramer.
Yeah, he ended up at Iowa State, but still, right? You've got,
but when you have turmoil, you
drop. Yeah, you lose guys that you should normally get. And so you look at when they recruited their best, and it exactly lined up when Nebraska was at their worst. And so now you get Matt Rule in town. They go 39 as Nebraska is clearly going to make a change, 50, 43. Those are their classes. 50 last year was Matt Rule's first class. 43 this year is his second class, the one that they just signed. This is a direct reflection of Kirk Ferentz having to fight with somebody that's actually in his weight class now.
Don't hate the player, hate the game.
Yeah, and he does hate the game, it seems like. He hates the way the game has changed, and I don't think he's going...
Yeah, but now he's hating on the player.
Yes, he is now, because he's bitter and salty. He's a salty
because he can't adjust.
Yeah, he's a bitter old man. Go retire, bud. I don't know what to tell you, but quit dropping 17-year-old kids' names when you're salty about your program.
I mean, average more points than the names that you are attacking, right? Per age. Average more points in a game. If you average 19 points a game, then have at it. Go after any kid. But until you average more than 17 points a game, get off my lawn.
That is the opening of the show. We will have more Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next. Welcome back to Hurrdat Sports Radio here on AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live from Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill on the H&H Chevrolet stage. I'm Ravi Lulla. Andrew Rogers here with me.
Good morning.
Shane Schillerberg producing. We are kicking you off right into the Christmas weekend with a little Christmas spirit. And, I think we need to help Santa out a little bit here and check the naughty nice list. We have, it's getting that time of year where Nebraskans start shifting their focus from college to the NFL. And I wanted to kind of take stock of where the NFL has been this year. And I thought, what better way to do this than to take a page out of Santa's book and create a naughty nice list? So here's how we have this set up. We've got 5 in each list. The nice list are our top 5 MVP candidates so far this season.
In the NFL.
Yep. The naughty list are the 5 most disappointing teams, stories, players, whatever. Right? Nice list, top 5 MVP candidates. Naughty list,
and naughty can be anything.
Yes. Doesn't have to be like they got arrested or something. Just disappointing, whatever, this so far this season. I thought that would be a good way to take stock, or stockings, if you will, for the NFL season to this point. So you want to start nice list, naughty list?
Let's start with the nice list.
Okay, the nice list. Here we go. So this is the top 5 MVP candidates. Andrew Rogers and I have not compared lists.
Nope.
We did this independently, so I'll see how much we match up. You go 5-1?
5-1.
Okay, my number 5, Tyreek Hill.
He's my number 5 too.
He has been, first of all, straight up incredible this year. The Dolphins are 10-4. They lead their division. They're 2 games ahead of Buffalo, who was supposed to win that division. Buffalo, by the way, they are not in great shape for the playoff race. Let's just put it that way. We'll get to them more later. But between the Dolphins have been one of the big storylines in the AFC this year, them and the Ravens. They've really separated themselves as the leaders of the pack in that conference. And as good as Tua's been, that offense is nowhere without Tyreek Hill. I believe he's got over 1,400 yards receiving already. He's got an outside shot to break 2,000 on the year. An incredible Tyreek Hill season. I don't think he's going to win the MVP. I don't think he should win the MVP.
Whoa.
He deserves
Easy guy
to be in that number 5 slot, though.
If he hadn't missed last week with an ankle injury, I think he could have gotten to that 2,000-yard barrier and break Calvin Johnson's record, which is like 1960 something. And remember,
and I misspoke. It's actually over 1,500.
What was that,
yards.
like 2012 when he broke that record? Everybody was talking about CJ that year, where he went for 1,900 yards, but he only had 5 touchdowns, like 4 or 5 touchdowns.
Yeah, because that's the Lions for you, but yeah.
But Tyreek Hill has 12 right now.
Yep.
Like that should be taken into account too in
Absolutely.
this mix. He only needs 153 yards per game in his last 3 to get to 2,000.
He's just about 458 yards away.
That's doable.
It
I
is.
mean, he's done that 4 or 5 times this year already.
That's basically 2 of his long touchdown passes a game.
So if he can put together an incredible last 3, first he's got to play this week. He's still carrying that questionable tag. But Tyreek Hill deserves to be in the conversation because if he's not in this conversation, and we'll get to another guy, and I won't say his name because he'll be on both of our lists, but if that person's not in this conversation either, you might as well change the MVP award to MVQ.
Yeah. Most valuable quarterback.
Like that's what it should change to. There needs to be some sort of there needs to be some sort of way to look at a skill player or position player and think he can outdo a quarterback.
Yeah.
And what does that look like? It looks like a season Tyreek Hill is on pace for.
Absolutely.
And it looks like a season that
like
the other guy is that we'll get to later on in the list.
Yeah, and like I said, Tua's having a totally different season if it's not for the Tyreek Hill factor of it all. All right, my number 4 pains me a little to put him here because I don't love him. I don't love his team, but I do think we have, and they're starting to dip a little bit. I do think we have to acknowledge Dak Prescott.
That's my number 4.
Well, I did Tyreek Hill, so you give the case for Dak Prescott.
Well, I mean, just Dak's had an excellent season.
Yeah.
And it's a season that everybody's been expecting, right? Ever since he made that first playoff run in his rookie season, it was like
when he replaced Romo. Yeah.
It was like, guys, Dak Prescott's the dude. We're going to keep him around. Like he's the franchise quarterback.
They paid him like a dude.
They paid him to do it, and he just hasn't been it.
And he hasn't been injury, which was tough,
but still, with how good those teams are and have been, the fact that Dak Prescott couldn't get that team over the hump in terms of playoffs, in terms of not just playoff, but just value in for himself, it just wasn't there. And now he finally seems like he's worth his weight in gold. Second in QBR, he is second in touchdowns. He's, I think, like 5th in yards this season.
Yeah, over 3,600 yards already, 28 touchdowns and 7 picks.
He's had some really nice games against some really good teams. Now, the Cowboys are still showing that they're one of the most inconsistent teams in football, which is why Dak falls to 4 on my list.
Me too.
If he were to win some of those games that they didn't get blown out in or just completely fumble the bag, Dak Prescott could be top 3.
Yeah, I think he was probably closer to top 2 or 3 for me prior to this last week in Buffalo when they got beat 31-10. I also, as a 49ers fan, can't get that 42-10 game out of my head.
That's a big one.
And that is a big one because
most watched, I would guess, this season.
Yeah, and obviously some of the other candidates on this list are from the 49ers, right? So, at least for me. So that is a huge discrepancy for me, is just the way that he was unable to perform against, obviously, they beat Philadelphia, which was a great win for them, but against the top team that they've played so far this year, they got absolutely outclassed. So I do have Dak Prescott on the list. He deserves to be on the list. I can't get him any higher than 4th for those reasons, as you mentioned. Number 3 on my list.
It's probably the same as mine.
Let's see here.
Let's say it at the same time. Say like 3, 2, 1, and then we'll say his name at the same time.
3, 2, 1.
Lamar Jackson.
Mahomes.
Oh, all right.
Okay.
We got some divide up here at the table. Go ahead.
All right. So Patrick Mahomes is here for one reason and one reason only. That is because he is still leading a division-leading team, a team that most people still consider a threat in the playoffs, despite the fact that his wide receivers seem to cause more interceptions than they do receptions. His receiving core is brutal. This is one of those Tom Brady type years for Patrick Mahomes where Brady just didn't have the tools around him. And because he was Tom Brady, he elevated that team to an AFC championship game or whatever the case was. He made them a real contender just because he's Tom Brady. I'm thinking of kind of that gap between the back-to-back Super Bowls and pre-Randy Moss. There was a couple years in there where he didn't get any help from his receivers. That's kind of the part of Patrick Mahomes' career that we're in right now. And because of that, I understand he's not going to win the MVP, but he's been as impressive as anyone this year, A, for just not blowing up at his receivers every week, but B, to have Kansas City still in that position and not have any help from anyone besides Travis Kelce, that to me is the true value portion of MVP.
Lamar Jackson's story will really, his fate, I guess, in the MVP race will be decided this weekend.
Probably on Monday
against San Francisco. Yeah. And look, if this was the most valuable to the team award, Lamar would be the front runner because Lamar Jackson this season is the most valuable player to his team. When you look at what the 49ers have, there's a couple of pieces there that you would consider can go, back and forth. Yeah. With the Cowboys like that, we talked about Dak Prescott a little bit, but Lamar Jackson is still more valuable to the Ravens than Dak is to the Cowboys. Tyreek Hill and Tua are kind of side by side. And also Raheem Mostert has had a pretty good season too. But Lamar Jackson, 15th in yards, 17th in touchdown, 8th in QBR. I don't have his rushing stats pulled up right now.
So he's got 740 yards. He leads the team in rushing. He's averaging 5.5 yards per carry. He's got 5 touchdowns.
But think about like what the Ravens have, right? The Ravens don't have a running back.
Gus Edwards is next on that
and
list.
Keaton Mitchell is on the up and up, but he got hurt.
Yeah, he's been out.
And J.K. Dobbins was supposed to be that guy and hasn't really seen the field at all.
He's only played one game this year.
You look at what they have on the outside. OBJ is their best option next to Zay Flowers.
Although I do like Zay Flowers.
I do too. But Mark Andrews has been hurt this year, and that was a safety net for Lamar Jackson. Yeah. And yet Lamar and the Ravens are still the top team in the AFC. If this was most valuable to the team, he'd be the winner, but it's not. It's most valuable player, which is why he's third on the list.
So I think we both win a similar spot there in our heads, which was guys that don't have a ton of help. I went Mahomes, you went Lamar. I think they're both fair options. I'll be honest, Lamar's not on my list. So I'm glad you brought him up because the next two guys on my list, I think are kind of unquestionably, but again, maybe I'm a little biased. We will get to the rest of our nice list and our naughty list coming up on Hurrdat Sports Radio here on AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. Wrapping up hour number 1 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. I'm Ravi Lulla, Andrew Rogers here with me. What up? We are live from the Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill and HA Chevrolet stage, and we are on AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, as well as Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. TK says that the 49ers' most valuable player might be Trent Williams. It's a reasonable argument. They did have that 3-game losing streak without him. They were banged up in a bunch of areas during that stretch as well. But Trent Williams is a super valuable part of that team. There's absolutely no denying that.
49ers have so many players that can go into that conversation of super valuable for that team.
Which is funny because you would think that would take away from some of their other candidates MVP. And it doesn't.
It just enhances their case.
So number 2, let's go through our list real quick. Tyreek Hill, Dak Prescott, Patrick Mahomes were my 5, 4, and 3. Tyreek Hill, Dak Prescott, and Lamar Jackson were your 5, 4, 3 in the nice list of top 5 MVP candidates. My number 2, and I feel like we maybe have these flip-flopped, but I think we both have the same 2 guys here. My number 2 is Christian McCaffrey. The difference that he makes on that team because of his versatility as a runner, as a receiver, the threat that he brings, where you can line him up all over the field, the combination of him and Deebo Samuel, who's not on this list, but everything that Christian McCaffrey brings to that offense, if you look at what it looked like last year before they acquired Christian McCaffrey, and then a few weeks into the Christian McCaffrey experience once he got up to speed, and it is night and day difference how good this offense looks. Now, the other guy on my list came into the picture around that same time, so hard to tell which is which, but I do have Christian McCaffrey as my number 2.
Yeah, Christian McCaffrey's my number 1.
That's what I thought. I thought we had these flip-flopped.
And the reason he's my number 1 is why? Because I don't want it to be a quarterback award. Christian McCaffrey has done just an outstanding amount of work at his position. He's been the best running back when healthy since he's gotten into the league at his position. And you look at the numbers over there compared to the other 30 years of running backs that won MVPs, Ravi.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Emmitt Smith was in 93, 1,400 yards, 5.3 yards a carry, 1,900 total yards, 10 touchdowns, right? We'll skip ahead and go to Sean Alexander in 05 when he had 1,800 yards on the ground. He was averaging 5.2 a carry, had 1,958 total yards, 28 touchdowns. Then you had LT's great year when he had like 31 touchdowns. Mm-hmm. AP was the last running back to win it in 2012 when he ran for over 2,000 yards. Now, McCaffrey won't hit that number because he was banged up this year a bit. And plus, in the 17-game season, he probably has a good chance of doing it, but he's not used like AP was used.
No.
Like, AP is a guy that you hand the football off and you expect him to just take over.
He gets less than 20 carries a game. And
you know why? Because he catches so many out of the backfield, and he's so versatile that's how they use him in San Francisco. And also, there's so many weapons on that field that they don't have to overwork him like he was overworked in Carolina.
And AP wasn't the receiver even close.
No, he only had 217 receiving yards that season.
Yeah.
But McCaffrey in 23, and this is if what he's on pace for. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not what he has now. It's based on what he's been able to do this season,
like per
his
game.
projected final regular season totals.
Okay.
1,500 yards on the ground, 5.3 yards a carry. If you remember, I said, Emmitt Smith was 5.3, Sean Alexander 5.2, LT 5.2. He has 618 receiving yards and climbing. Well, that's what he's projected at. The only player to have more than that would have been Marshall Faulk in 2000. And he's on pace for 24 touchdowns. Like, he is matching up pretty close to the running backs that won the MVP award over the last 30 seasons.
Absolutely.
And so, because of that, and because of how many, look, Brock Purdy's your number 1. Mm-hmm. We'll just cut to the chase. Brock Purdy's my number 2.
Yeah.
Because Brock Purdy is on the 49ers. Like, look, he's had a tremendous season. Mm-hmm. Right, he's number 1 in quarterback efficiency. He's got the best QBR in all of football. He's number 1 in touchdowns from the quarterback position. He only has 7 picks, and he's second in yards. Mm-hmm. Like, Brock Purdy is amazing, but because he has so many players to enhance his game, versus the one guy that's kind of like doing it on his own. And that's unfair to say to Brock, because Brock has to make those throws too. Yeah, like that's why they're so close and neck and neck. I just so badly don't want to be a quarterback. And I would love to see CMC get rewarded for just his talents.
Yeah.
Now, granted, somebody out there is going to be like, well, Brock Purdy hasn't won. He was Mr. Irrelevant. Get him rewarded for his talents. Yeah, you're right too. And that's why he's the favorite right now.
Yeah.
And look, Brock Purdy's not one that you could say is most valuable to his team, because you have Christian McCaffrey, you have Deebo Samuel, you have George Kittle when healthy, and all these other great pieces offensively and defensively. But the reason that you can still be the most valuable player and not most valuable to your team is when you put up numbers like this.
Yeah.
If you aren't able to put up numbers like this, then it's clear cut that you shouldn't win the MVP when you're surrounded by all this talent.
Yeah, I mean, so I think if you want to make the argument that neither of the 49ers guys should win it because of all the talent around them, I can understand that. I'm going to disagree with you, but I don't really have an argument against it, right? Because MVP is really, it is half value, half outstanding performance, right?
Oh, sorry.
Half outstanding performance. So, yes, Patrick Mahomes, more valuable to the Chiefs. Lamar Jackson, more valuable to the Ravens than either of these two guys are to the 49ers, because the 49ers have such great other great weapons, right? But you also have to acknowledge the outstanding performances that both of these guys have put on this year, which is why
It's
they're
unbelievable.
Which is why they're 1 and 2 in both of our lists.
And I love seeing Brock succeed. I love seeing CMC succeed.
And so, but both of these guys, the differentiator between the two of them is going to be storyline, right? CMC being a running back, a non-quarterback to win the award for the first time in over a decade, as you mentioned, or going from Mr. Irrelevant to MVP of the league. Now, that storyline is really compelling. And I think you have to remember on who votes for these things. It's media members, it's writers, it's all of that, right? It's usually
why Brock Purdy is minus 200.
Because the storyline of, and this is not a long time ago, 2 years ago, he was the Mr. Irrelevant. He was not the full-time starter until December of last year. He's barely been a full-time starter for a full year. He also blew out his elbow in January and has come back and done this. That storyline, I think, is too much to overcome for a guy like CMC. Doesn't mean he's less deserving, but that's generally how these awards kind of go.
Well, I'll tell you what. Over the last few years, over the last 30 years, like I said, when I went down the list of MVPs, the top quarterbacks for the season, like the most efficient quarterbacks that didn't win the MVP because the running back won. Peyton Manning, when AP won in 2012 with the Broncos, Drew Brees in 2006 when LT won.
Yep.
You have Peyton Manning again with the Colts in 2005 when Sean Alexander won.
Yeah.
Donovan McNabb with Marshall Faulk, Randall Cunningham with Terrell Davis, Brett Favre and when he was co-MVP with Barry Sanders.
Yep.
And maybe that's a thing.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe that's what the league does this season with CMC and Brock Purdy. If CMC goes off in these next, was it 3 games, 2 games?
3 games.
3 games.
There's 4. They played 14.
If he goes off in these next 3 games and Brock Purdy stays
normal,
let's just say consistent, right? You could have a situation where it's like Favre Sanders co-MVPs in 1997. Although that was the year of the co-national champions.
That's true.
Now the co-MVPs.
That's true.
But then also Steve Young, man, in 1993 when Emmitt Smith won, Steve Young was the most efficient quarterback that season.
Yeah. I mean, listen, there's not a ton of separation in my mind between these two guys. I think you could make a decent argument for either of them. Like I said, if you really want to say none of the 49ers should win it because they have all the help, I understand that too.
I say that because you're a fan of that team.
Well, that's fair. I don't think that's reasonable, and I don't think that's
not reasonable?
No, not at all. I don't think that's how the voting will go.
Oh, Ravi likes the 49ers, so we're going to choose
Get him
Lamar.
out of here. We're going Lamar 1, Tyreek 2. We're going Dak. No, I get it. Like
Jake Browning, right in.
Low key kind of like Jake Browning. But I understand that. But the fact of the matter is, Brock Purdy's been incredible. CMC's been incredible. I mean, all the guys on the list have been incredible, right?
And that's why they're on the nice list.
That's why they're on the nice list, right? When you behave and you have a great, when you're a good little child, then Santa rewards you by putting you on the nice list. No, that's our nice list. I think we should probably save our naughty list for later in the show because coming up here at the top of the second hour, we're going to talk to our guy Damon Benning. We'll see who's on his nice list for his NFL MVP candidates because I'm sure he's got some thoughts about that. We will catch up with him kind of on. I kind of want to see if he can give us a little bit of dish some of that tea, not purple drink. Not purple drink, Shane, but some tea.
If you missed it, we went through Gen Z terms on Wednesday, and Shane thought purple drink and tea were the same thing.
Yes,
it's got to be.
They are not the same thing. See if he's got a little tea that he can spill now that signing day has passed, and maybe there's some little tidbits he can sprinkle in there, some nuggets. But we'll get to DB here at the top of the hour. Before we do that, though, I want to make sure I tell you about our friends at Warhorse, the Warhorse Sportsbook. They are the best place in Nebraska to place your sports bets. They have live bets, which I love, props, straight bets, parlays, whatever you want to do. Place those bets in person at the casino in Lincoln or at Horseman's Park here in Omaha, 6303 Q Street.
Nice little trailer in the middle of the field.
They got you covered.
Middle of the track, I guess.
You can go to Warhorse, warhorsecasino.com/sportsbook or download the Warhorse Casino app to get all the details and a full list of house rules. That's Warhorse Sportsbook. No bets, no glory. Coming up next, we're going to talk to our guy, Damon, betting here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. Kicking off hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio on AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. I'm Ravi Lulla. Andrew Rogers here with me. We are joined now on the Warhorse Sportsbook hotline by our guy, Old DB, Damon Benning. What's going on, buddy?
Hi, buddy. How are you?
He said OLE, not OLD, DB, just so you know.
It was OL apostrophe.
So Drew Don, you got to get that corrected. It's OL apostrophe.
Oh, my apologies. I'm in the Christmas spirit where everything has an E at the end.
Not like Ole Miss.
Hey, so it's funny, Andrew. Do you do you mess with him sometimes about like his old isms and his particulars? Because he's got a few of those. Ravi should have probably been born in the 60s.
I got to tell you, we went through the Gen Z words on Wednesday, and Ravi hit every single one on the nose. So I don't know if I can.
That's not fair. He's around kids.
But he doesn't like them.
Yeah, I know. That's true. That's because they're the younger they are, the worse Ravi is. If they're older, if they're a little older, Drew Don, he can handle it.
Yeah, I like DB's kids.
Yeah. I don't even like my own kids.
Well, listen, they like me. I like them. It's all good.
Yeah, it's kind of weird how you kind of weaseled your way in there, but all the power to you, man. When they drive me crazy, you take responsibility, especially Micah.
Well, listen, I'll just tell him. I'll make sure I set him straight. To have a little Larry Bird conversation with Micah would be all good.
Yeah, he's ready to revisit the 2022 NBA draft with you too at the end of the season.
So let's do it.
Be prepared.
I'm just gonna have him on the show. I gotta ask, DB, because I know you're real particular about the first name last name thing. How uncomfortable did Coach Rule make you, name dropping you like 7 times in that presser?
Yeah, I couldn't believe that. So I'm on, and you guys know I'm like super cringe. I'm in the car, and my buddy Kevin, he texts and he's like, "Hey, you got a shout out." So I didn't pay it any mind because my hands are full and I'm like, what is going on? And so then he texts me back. He's like, "Where are you?" I can't even remember what I said. I think I said in the car or something like that. But I stood in. He said, "Coach," he said, "the presser," and I go, "Oh boy." So I didn't hear it until about 2 because Jessica Cootie sent me Caleb's deal from this morning because I was up at the school, so I didn't hear anything. So then my whole my sister, and she's like, "Hey, you just got and she wasn't even talking about the press conference. She was talking about on Big Ten Network, and they highlighted Caleb, and I'm like, I got to get home. I didn't see anything. I probably was like, no, I'm dead serious. I didn't lock into anything that was going on media wise until 3 that day.
Wow.
It was
You're always running around though.
I was gonna say, yeah. So I'm watching that press conference and I just sit there and I go, oh man, he's gonna hate this. But
Coach Rule, he did call about 1:30.
Did he?
And I remember because of course Caleb didn't want to drive to school on signing day. He wanted to leave his car here. He's like, "Hey, can you drop me off? I'm done with my finals at 1." So I remember when Coach Rule called, I drove around the parking lot and I texted him and told him I would be in the school in a little bit because I didn't want him to hear anything he said on the phone. So that part I do remember vividly.
DB, we're talking with Damon Benning, the color analyst for Nebraska football. DB, we talked to Caleb earlier this week, obviously on signing day, and he talked a lot about the trust that is built between Coach Rule and the recruits and the players. I know you've experienced this a lot, not just with Caleb and other coaches that came calling either early or late on Caleb, but with a bunch of other guys that you've had recruited over the years, and then obviously with yourself as well in your recruiting process. How different is it, the experience with Coach Rule versus other guys? Because it seems like the way guys talk about him, it seems like there's legitimately a difference in the way that guy operates. And I'm curious, because you have such a wide range of experiences with other coaches, like what have you seen?
He's just a natural. So, like it's kind of hard to fake or pretend to not be other centered, right? So if you don't really care about other people more than yourself, or if you don't really want to invest in young people, like over time, it reveals itself, because situations happen and you get squeezed, and you kind of have to, it'll, whatever's in you. I always say this, right? Whatever's in you is going to come out. So when he has to function and there's, it's not going real smooth, and there's a little duress, like he always hunkers down around the young people. I sat with Tristan Alvano last night. He texted like 10 a.m. yesterday. He's like, hey, he knows, you guys both know, I very particular. I kind of sit, mind my own business in the game. He's like, hey, can I sit with you? And I felt bad. I was like, am I that big of a jerk where somebody has to call like 8 hours ahead of time?
Get approval.
If they can sit. Yeah, man, I did. I felt bad. I sat in the parking lot.
And then you told him no, right?
I sat no AR. Like I sat in the parking lot. I'm like, is it me, or does he have something serious he wants to talk about? Like it was like tugging at me a little. But anyway, so I'm talking to him last night about, he goes, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. Like, our guys are going to be so lucky because you guys sound just like Coach Rule at practice. I go, is that a good or a bad thing? and he goes, well, you're going to be prepared, and he starts talking about like some of the highs and lows and getting off social media. And he said, it's like through it all, just him kind of talking with Coach Rule and spending time on what's important and kind of staying in the moment. He's like, he goes, he's awesome. He said he's unbelievable. And I just think it's in those times when he does his best work, Coach Rule. Like when it's easy to be good and high functioning when everything's going well, but and trust me, no one knows this better than me. But sometimes it's hard to function at a high level when everything around you is, when you're kind of when you're in a bind. And so what he's able to do, even with recruiting with Dylan, right? Like he was savvy enough to kind of let it go, and then come back to it when he needed to and step on the gas, because he didn't have to change who he was. When he said, when he told me in February, like, hey, fine, you guys take your time. I understand. I trust the decision. I know kind of how the family operates. Like, so I knew that he was going to allow that recruiting process to be a little bit different. So just having a feel situationally for how to deal with people, it's kind of uncanny. Remember, AR probably knows this better than anybody, but remember how I always used to say, like, he's such a quick blinker, where we have these conversations, and sometimes I would be done talking, and I was like, did he just get one over on me? Like, I feel like he just totally sized me up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so he's just really I said this before. His greatest gift is discernment. Like, he can recognize what's going on with people, and he can do it in a hurry.
Well, so DB, speaking of that, because you had mentioned, like, you can't be overly effective when you feel like you're in a bind, and Coach Rule knows his players. And I sat back yesterday and thought about the Eric Field situation, and knowing that I was
tough.
I was going to say, knowing that I was going to get to talk to you today, I wanted to ask you, because he was somebody in your Super Six, somebody is super intriguing in that 2023 class. What do you think happened there?
Everybody on that campus knows, that was around Eric Fields, that watched him play, that watched him practice. this is 100% not a talent issue.
Mm.
He was incredible. Like, just talking to some of the guys, Tristan last night, he just was like, wow. Like, it caught just about everybody off guard. And I'll respect kind of what I know about that situation and wait for that to kind of play out. But I think here's what I'll tell you. And I say this all the time. I tell it to our guys. I'll tell it to, I'd say it to Laquana. I'd say it to Michael Bird. I'd say it to whomever, right? When you go to school, when you play at a high level, and I don't care if it's Power 5, FCS, FBF, when you're asked to do something every day and do it at a high level, you have to have this thing in you that allows you to deal with life at the same time. Otherwise, it's hard, because it's not just about playing sports. It's about managing yourself when you're away from home, having a good handle on your emotions, having a good handle on the day-to-day. Like, it's hard to have somebody demand something of you all the time. It's my number one quality in looking for success for people in college is what I always say: they don't need a babysitter. And it sounds a little harsh, like they're young and they always need somebody to watch them. But what I'm really saying is 80% of succeeding at that level is the ability to repeat something at a benchmark level every day. The less deviation you have, the more success you're going to have. And ultimately in this game, the best ability is going to be availability, because you just have to keep showing up every single day. And I think it's not for everybody. And a lot of times it's not about, there's lots and lots and talented players. Some guys and gals they just don't want to be that repetitive every day. And I think we place all these expectations on high school players coming out, and we look at recruiting rankings and people star gaze, and they're like, oh, well, he was this, so he should be this. And it's the same thing that I even said about a guy like Dylan Raiola. I'll tell you how good Dylan is when I see how he operates every day. Like, I've seen lots of talented people, but I want to see how he operates every day with being told what to do. Some guys they're just not built for it. And so I'm always leery to just look at talent alone. And I'm already seeing it with this recruiting class, all these expectation levels. And I'm like, oh, fudge, I kind of know this guy. I've coached against him. I went out to go watch him play, or I've watched him or I've talked to his coach out in such and such a state. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm not saying it gives me a leg up in terms of eval, but what I will say is excelling at a high level, and it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's sports or, I'm sure Bill and Chris can speak to it too. Sometimes it's about when you're successful doing something, sometimes it's just about the ability to hang in there. And that's a lot of it. So, Eric is a super kid, and I just, college takes a little bit of an adjustment period.
We're talking with Damon Benning, the analyst for Husker football on the Husker Radio Network. DB, out of this class, I know you said you've watched a lot of these guys, you've talked to a lot of their coaches, you've coached against a lot of these guys. Is there a guy in this class, and we'll take Caleb out of the equation because, it'd be a little biased there, but
I'd tell you the truth.
I know
all the time.
I know
all the time. That's what I was thinking. I'm like, he'll be honest.
Who in this class do you think is not getting enough attention that you think has the potential to be a really, really good player?
Oh, shoot. I would definitely use Caleb. But I won't for the sake of the exercise. There's probably a couple.
Hold on real quick before you answer for me. I want to touch on Caleb for a second. Is he big enough to play that Isaac Gifford spot? Because I think he would love that spot.
He will be.
Okay. Because he likes hitting people and like a lot.
Yeah, and he's So we talked like on film a ton.
Mm-hmm.
So he can play either or. I think he can play the field safety. Where I think ideally they want to put a guy like Hartzog.
Mm-hmm.
And I always say that, right? And I just trying to speak that into existence. But really it's like Omar, where sometimes you'll see him down in the box. He can play on the second level, or he can play on the opposite side with like Giff. So that's kind of where I see it. But now, like, I keep talking to him about offense too, and I'm like, like it's everybody wants to play.
Hey, they need receivers, man. Get them out there.
Nah, I hope they're joking, but
not about returning punts.
I told him he has to return punts.
So I'll give you one guy local, and I'll give you one guy kind of local. I really like Keelan Smith, as kind of a hybrid guy.
Okay.
I think he's still growing. He's got a weird body type. So he's not really a wideout. He's not really a tight end yet, but he's a tough guy. Like, I watch it. It's weird. I try to watch whole games too, and not just highlights. He doesn't mind when guys bang on him. He hangs in there. So I like his upside. And he played in a tough class in Missouri. So he has my attention. And then the other guy that I took, Eric, do you remember when I took? It was a kind of a mini meltdown when Nebraska went on the run of those DBs, and everybody was like, "Well, they don't have offers, and they're taking reaches, and this, that, and the other." And I'm like, Donovan Jones I like.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Like I like Donovan Jones. And here's the weird thing. The first thing that I like about Donovan is like how he was raised, like his family structure. Because Donovan's a guy that always goes to work. He's very dependable. And he wasn't always the biggest. He wasn't always the fastest. He wasn't always the quickest. But it's almost like in his middle school years, he kind of just went and disappeared. He just kind of got in the lab. He would go work out, he would train, and he'd grow the next year. And then as a sophomore, he'd grow again. I'm like, oh God, and he's a really, really good kid. So, and so I think he wants to do well. Like we undersell that. Like, how much do you actually want to be good at what you're doing? It's a very, very underappreciated skill. How great do you want to be? DJ wants to be great. I think he played in a defense in which he had to do a lot of things, and sometimes it wasn't always asked of him. Sometimes it was just his instincts. And so I really like Donovan Jones. I kind of like Donovan because it's Micah's favorite non-bending in the class. No, it really is. Like, Mike has been talking about Donovan for like 2 years, and so he came onto the scene late.
Yeah.
So he's a guy that I like locally.
Now, okay, so Ravi brought up the wide receiving room there briefly, just kind of a quick point, and now that Nebraska has their quarterback of the future, DB, or at least it seems to be that way. It's time to start filling holes around that position. But I'm not sure the wide receiver position is actually as pressing as people may think it is. When Julian Fleming was available, and he was like an instant yes to the room, but that, of course, was contingent with McCord. But before I guess Dylan Raiola was the guy, maybe that was the thought process. But now that he is the guy, is it necessary to grab veteran help or somebody big in the portal at that skill position to elevate the game? Because DR is that guy that elevates the games around him.
I hope so. I hope you're right. Like, I think so, but I'm always a little gun shy. Can I say that in 2023? Well, it's almost 2024, so I can.
Yeah, you're good. You can get away with it.
I'm always a little gun shy about like saying whether somebody just coming out of high school can elevate the collegiate guys. So I'll put that to the side just for a second, and I'll say it like this. I think Raiola is talented enough where if all the other intangibles come with it, he definitely raises the floor and the ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I think I can say that and be safe, but I'm totally with you on the wide receiver room. The young guys will continue to get better. The tight end room should be better than it was a year ago. You've got some good additions, and I said this for 3 months. The guy that we're forgetting about it, the way just Bell can be a good player. He is.
You say Demetrius Bell there?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, you cut out for a second. Go ahead.
Extremely talented. And I know he's young, and you don't want to make a living with the young guys running routes, but maybe one more veteran wide receiver to kind of steady the ship. But the room will be significantly better than a year ago. I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind another veteran wide receiver, but just like I wouldn't mind a veteran running back. So, but the key to the running back spot is, I mean, maybe Nebraska thinks that they're going to get Ramir Johnson back, and he can plug one of the holes, and then you get another young guy to kind of step up. So, yeah, I think it's secondary, not necessary at the wide receiver spot.
DB, we've got about a minute and a half here with you. I will
Goes
give
fast,
you.
doesn't it?
Unbelievable.
It sure does. I will give you either a running back, a wide receiver, or any other position group on the field. You get one veteran guy. I wouldn't call him an impact transfer, but a guy that helps the room and is a good player. Which position are you taking?
Quarterback.
Okay. You want somebody that kind of
talking about steadying a ship.
Yeah, steady the ship before.
I want to bridge the gap, and I want to calm the room.
Okay.
Because, and I say this the other way. I said since I've been doing radio, I said good athletic, quarterbacks that can make a play can make OCs lazy. They're like, oh, eventually, hey, make a play. He'll make a play. So it's not intentional. It's just, oh, he'll get us out of it. So just the opposite happens with young QBs. They take an extra amount of time. They take an extra amount of attention. And so all the extras that room gets, that attention isn't going somewhere else. So I would take a player coach in that room to model how to be a college quarterback at this level. Because right now, that guy really isn't in the room. Harburg has the advantage because he knows what it takes, but he just hasn't done it long enough to model. So I would take a veteran QB.
There you go. That is our guy, old DB, Damon Benning. Hey, but
OL apostrophe is I have. I'm a lifelong learner like Coach Rule.
OL apostrophe, not Olay like potato Olays or Ole Miss.
Although that's the one thing you can't just eat one of. That's why I don't go near those things.
DB, it's great to talk to you as always. Happy holidays. Nothing but the best to you and your family.
All right. Appreciate it, guys. Merry Christmas.
Merry
Safe
Christmas
travels,
to you,
AR,
too.
if you're going home.
Thank you. Going home
Okay,
today.
buddy. All right, buddy.
We're halfway through the show here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. I'm Ravi Lulla. Andrew Rogers here with me on AM 590, ESPN Omaha, and ESPN Tri-Cities. At halftime, like we're at right now, usually it's time to take a break. But when you're driving, it's time to take a break from the distractions, okay?
Nice.
Driving is a full-time job. Phones, food, and friends need your attention when you're not driving. The road needs your attention when you are driving. Stop the distractions. Just drive. This message from the NDOT Highway Safety Office. Wanted to continue our nice naughty list. We got through the nice list, but unfortunately, there are some boys and girls out there this time of year that end up with a lump of coal in their stocking because they're on the naughty list. In the NFL, our nice list included Tyreek Hill, Dak Prescott, Mahomes for me, Lamar Jackson for you, Christian McCaffrey, and Brock Purdy. On the naughty list,
which can be anything.
It could be anything not positive, basically, right?
In the sports world.
Yes, yeah. In the NFL.
it's only the
I
NFL.
stuck NFL. You can.
Oh, I went all over the map here.
Well, go for it. That's terrific.
I'll think about this too for the NFL.
So I did NFL exclusively here.
And when I was texting you last night, I wondered if you meant that. And I thought, well, he said anything. So I guess
I thought you meant anything in the NFL. That's fine. It's fine. We'll be all right. So my number 5, and I know they're on a little bit of an upswing right now, but the Buffalo Bills. That's why they're 5 instead of higher on this list, because they have started to play a little bit better. But they're still on the outside looking in of the playoff situation. They're in 9th because of tiebreakers. Only the top 7 will make that playoff picture for the AFC. They're starting to look a little bit better, but this is a team that we believed, at least most people did, that had real Super Bowl aspirations. They've got the guy at quarterback, or they feel like they've got the guy at quarterback. They've got a really good roster. This is a team that's been neck and neck with Kansas City the last few years. They have been, we're talking, 13 seconds away from a Super Bowl a couple years ago. This has been one of the best teams in the league, and they have been flat out disappointing. As I said, they've still got work to do just to get into the playoffs this year. Missing the playoffs, if you're the Bills this year, is an abject disaster. Just a total failure when you've got this type of roster, and this is the type of team you're putting together. Buffalo Bills, for me, have to make the naughty list.
Well, so I actually do have an NFL member on this list. And you know what? As I'm thinking about more NFL, things pop into my head. I'm going to start with Josh McDaniels for shade. Josh McDaniels makes his way to the naughty list.
Okay.
He's run his course as a head coach.
I think everywhere.
Everywhere.
Yeah, forever.
Because he had his chance with the Broncos and blew it.
Yep.
Yes, he did.
Then he went to the Patriots and kind of had some sort of revival period. But thanks to Tom Brady, a lot of that credit goes to him and not so much Josh McDaniels, because it's the same conversation as you talk about with Belichick. Was it Belichick or was it Brady? No one ever says, was it Josh McDaniels? And so Josh McDaniels goes over to the Raiders.
I get a lot of, was it Charlie Weiss, though? You gotta
and Josh McDaniels has just proven that he's not meant
to
be anything more than a coordinator.
Yeah.
That's it. He makes the naughty list because he completely and utterly tanked the Raiders as head coach. He's been unable to do anything with one of the best wide receivers in the league. He's got one of the best running backs, too. The guy that led the league in rushing last year still has yet to be able to do anything with him. You have a decent defense. I won't say they have a fantastic defense, but you have a decent defense. It's just nothing is working. And a lot of that is because the game plan was so bad.
Yeah, McDaniels isn't that guy. And listen, there's a lot of guys that are good coordinators that don't make good head coaches. It's not the worst indictment you can make of someone in the world, but the fact that people keep giving him opportunities, I think he's definitely a worthy inclusion on the naughty list.
Raiders have done that several times. Continue with your list.
It's what they do. They love.
I feel like Arthur Smith could be on this list too.
They love retreading bad coaches.
But he's still employed.
Speaking of people that are still employed but don't do much, Deshaun Watson made number 4 on my list.
It's a good one.
Remember him? Yeah, me either.
He makes a lot of money.
The Browns gave up. Not just does he make a lot of money, guaranteed, by the way. Good call, Cleveland. They gave up a king's ransom just for the right to give him a bunch of money to not play football. This dude has been barely able to play. He had some mystery injury for most of this year where he's like, I'm just not ready, guys. And then all of a sudden he's out for the season. Hasn't been able to play because of suspension and injury and just being an overall kind of bad dude. And when he has played, guess what? He hasn't been any good. So having him out there hasn't actually been helpful, even when he has been out there. This has been a total loss for the Browns. This has been, I think a stunning indictment of Deshaun Watson as a player and as a person over the last couple years. And guess what? Who's going to lead the Browns back to the playoffs? Freaking Joe Flacco, right? If Joe Flacco, who could not get a job in this league for I think like a year, all of a sudden, he's going to lead him back to the playoffs. Deshaun Watson, a most worthy inclusion on the naughty list.
Number 4, Derek Carr.
Okay.
Another Raider connection for my boy Shane over there, but now in New Orleans. Look,
Freaking bats.
they paid to get Derek Carr in the offseason.
Mhm.
Derek Carr was supposed to be the answer for the Saints, and the Saints are behind Baker Mayfield's Buccaneers right now in the NFL standings.
And honestly, the Saints should be on the naughty list as well for thinking that Derek Carr was the answer. But go ahead.
Yeah, maybe so. But sadly for Chris Olave, Carr on the season averages 1.1 passing touchdowns a game.
That's not very good.
Andy Dalton averaged 1.3 last year. Okay. In terms of big throw rate,
Yeah.
Derek Carr is 3.3%.
Mm.
Andy Dalton, 4.4%.
Mm,
So
okay.
who's better in this situation?
Sounds like Andy Dalton. Not by a lot.
For what you paid Derek Carr, for what you invested, he's been nothing more than a disappointment. And who knows if the Saints even see him back in 2024.
Yeah, that is definitely a good point there on Derek Carr. Number 3 for me, it's the Los Angeles Chargers. All right. I mean, they have gone all in on their roster. They have they've gotten free agents. They've gotten big names. They think they've got their guy at quarterback. They think he's a dude. And guess what? They're total crap. They've always been total crap. Justin Herbert doesn't win games. He just doesn't. I know that he's like physically awesome and he puts up good numbers, and maybe you want to blame it on Brandon Staley and whatever. Great. The dude hasn't won games his whole life. That's just what he's been. The Los Angeles Chargers, some people thought they might be a sleeper. Some people thought they might be able to take out the Chiefs. A vulnerable Chiefs, by the way, in the AFC West. They've been nothing. They are nothing. Enormous disappointment. Naughty list for the Chargers.
On top of the point on the Chargers, I'm going to take it one step further
Do it.
and put Brandon Staley on this list.
Absolutely.
Brandon Staley, I thought should have been fired in week 2.
I thought he should have been fired like a year ago.
And
be
I
fair.
still am not sure why they moved on from Anthony Lynn.
Yeah.
Like, I thought he was a good coach. And then they said, no, we're going to bring in this guy named Brandon Staley. He's going to try to revamp this offense, try to get things actually moving with Justin Herbert at the quarterback spot. And, you know, he's been more involved in saying like negative things in the media or like focusing too much time in the media than he was on his team this season. Or do you remember like it was like week 5 and somebody kept asking about the defense and Staley just had enough. He was fed up and it's like, I'm taking over. I'm taking over the defense. This is going to be me and I'm taking over this defense. And then they allowed 63 points to Shane's Las Vegas Raiders as they make another connection into the naughty list for 63 or so points that week. And that was finally finally what the Chargers had to tell themselves to say, hey, this is it. This is it with Staley. This is him falling off the cliff. No, this happened all the way back in week 2, guys. He didn't have things figured out in the offseason.
No.
He didn't have things figured out at the beginning of this season.
He's never had it figured out.
And he will never have it figured out in the offseason for himself now, because I don't know if he can decide if he should go to Cancun right now or if he should spend Christmas in LA.
Never, ever, 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 never.
The answer is always Cancun. Number 2 on my list. We got about 45 seconds. We got to get through 2 here.
Do it.
Real easy one. All the Chiefs wide receivers.
Tony.
That's it. Just all the
That
Chiefs
would've been mine.
Yes, just all the Chiefs wide receivers.
MVS.
Super easy one. Terrible. Just awful. Just-
I'll ride that point for number 2 because I had Kadarius Toney on the mind.
Number 1, kind of a hot take here, I think. Joe Burrow. I thought the Bengals had a real chance to win the Super Bowl this year. He had the calf injury, got off to a really rough start, and then injured out for the season. Not necessarily his fault, but the Bengals, or Joe Burrow's version of the Bengals this year was incredibly disappointing. And weirdly, Jake Browning has been effective for them. Not really his fault because of the injuries, but I would have been super disappointed that this wasn't a big Joe Burrow year.
Finally.
Yeah.
I'm stuck in the NFC East. I'm between the Commanders and Daniel Jones. I think I'm going to land with Daniel Jones. Enough said.
Coming up next, we've got a little more Christmas cheer coming your way here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. Wrapping up hour number 2 here on a Friday. This is our last show of the year. We will not be back until January 2nd. We will have some great best of shows for you next week. But we will be taking a little holiday break here coming up. So as we wrap up the week and the year here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, we want to play a little Christmas game for you. And if it's a game, it's brought to you by our friends over at Dingman's. They love fun and games, but when they're taking care of your vehicle, they are nothing but serious. They have been family-owned and operated in Omaha for over 25 years. They've got 4 great metro area locations, voted first place best of Omaha for 18 years running because they take their work seriously. They invest in the latest technology to stay up to date with an ever-changing industry. It means they can work on anything from Fords to Teslas, and they also take their community very seriously, and they give back with every car repaired. Go to dingmans.com for more information on their services and on their give back program.
I wonder if that tire squeal that Shane plays during that read ever scares drivers as they're in the car.
Yeah,
because the more I think about it, like the more I remember the accident that I got in on my way to the show that one morning when I heard tires squealing. Like it could have either been Shane playing the drop, or it actually could be on the road. Like I kind of wonder if people like drive in fear a little bit when they listen to the Dingman's game because of that squeal.
Yeah, Shane, maybe no more squeal. Maybe we lay off.
Can you imagine like driving and then all you hear is
let's stick to the
now they're off the road and have to go to Dingman, Shane.
Let's stick to some of the other car noises. We love sending Dingman's business, but we don't want to create business for them by creating some trouble on the roads. So I wanted to play the game I wanted to play here. It's a version of the match game. Okay. And it's a Christmas version though, but it's also a National Signing Day version of the match game. I'm going to be honest with you. This might be very dumb, but I think it's going to be fun.
Is it going to be difficult? We'll find out.
Probably. All right. So I'm going to give Andrew 5 players from this recruiting class.
Okay.
I'm going to give you also 5 names of Christmas songs. I need you to match the player with the song based on how you think they fit into this recruiting class.
So is this subjective though to you and your like top 5 Christmas songs? Let's just call them what it is. It may not be your literal top 5, but it's all what you think is a good Christmas song.
So I picked Christmas songs based on how I thought they fit the players, not how I felt about the Christmas song.
Okay. I'm back.
All right. So here are the players.
Hit me with them.
You're going to write them down so you have them on the list. Dylan Raiola.
Okay. All I Want for Christmas Is You. Okay.
Caleb Benning.
Oh, wait. No. I got to put CD because I can't type Caleb and know who that is.
Grant Bricks.
Okay.
Carter Nelson.
Okay.
And Preston Tamua.
I'm so happy you did Preston because I already know the song.
I hope you're
Meli Kaliki Maka. I already know the song because when you talked about this yesterday, I'm like, man, there's one player from Hawaii, and if Ravi doesn't do Meli Kaliki Maka, I may blow a gasket. This is awesome. All right, continue.
So
I'm ready.
Those are the 5 players. Here are the 5 songs. Wonderful Christmas Time by Paul McCartney.
Whoa, okay, hold on. I got to write that one down.
Simply having a wonderful Christmas time.
Thank you.
There you go. Yeah. Little Drummer Boy. Christmas, parentheses, Baby Please Come Home by Darlene Love.
Help me with it.
I don't know how to sing that one. We might have to. You might have to bring it up on your phone and play it off air for a second. I'll fill for it so you know that one.
Is that I'll Be? No.
Nope. All I Want for Christmas Is You by Mariah Carey.
Yep. There's Robbie's favorite for sure.
And Meli Kaliki Maka by Bing Crosby.
Yes. I'm not even going to go about spelling Kaliki Maka.
I'm
sure I can spell it.
I had to look it
out, but I know Meli.
Do you want to take a second to listen to the song you don't know? I can.
No, you know what? I'm going to gamble.
Okay.
I'm going to gamble because I know Talamua is Meli Kaliki Maka.
You are correct.
And it's only because it's from Hawaii.
It's a little on the nose, but it's So that the player from Hawaii, Preston Tamua, gets the Hawaiian Christmas song.
I'm so happy you did that. Like, great minds think alike. Like people out there, like this is a dream type of moment.
I had this moment last night where I'm putting the list together, and I'm like, okay, who's because I had those 4 guys. I was trying to come up with the 5th guy, and then I'm looking down the commit list, and I go, isn't there a Hawaiian Christmas song? And I turn to my wife. I go, what's the Hawaiian Christmas song? She just starts singing it because she loves Bing Crosby. It's like the white Christmas thing, the whole thing. Loves Bing Crosby. And as a military kid, she went to Hawaii all the time when they were moving back from Japan back to the U.S. So she loves Hawaii, loves Bing Crosby. I was like, I know she knows this song. So yes, Preston Taumua, Mele Kalikimaka by Bing Crosby. That is the match. So
you said, is it Michael Bublé's "Baby Please Come Home" Christmas? Is it
No.
the same song?
It's same song. It was originally sung by Darlene.
Okay, I'm gonna look at the lyrics then. Because
Yeah.
that's probably.
I did go on lyrics pretty heavy here. Okay, so Dylan Raiola, Caleb Benning, Grant Bricks, and Carter Nelson are the ones you have left.
Oh, I know this. They're singing "Deck the Halls."
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
But it's not like Christmas at all.
Yeah, I got
Yes,
it.
absolutely. That is the one. So those are the 4 players you have left. Those are the 4 songs you have left. Are you leaning one direction here?
No, because they're not a band.
Oh,
on this
you're
list.
right. Are you leaning a certain direction here?
I'm thinking "All I Want for Christmas Is You" is Dylan Raiola, because not just because it's a top tier Christmas song and whenever you hear it, people sing it, but it kind of fits the mold of Dylan Raiola that all you really want this year is Dylan Raiola.
You nailed it.
Nice. All right.
You got 2 of them right before I was done with the list. Before I was done saying the list. Because as soon as I said Dylan Raiola, you go, "All I Want for Christmas Is You." And I was like, dang it.
And then you got to press it, and I freaked out.
Yes. And I was like, gosh, dang. I mean, which is good. You're crushing the game. Proud of you. But also, dang it, you're ruining the game. All right, so we're 2 down. Dylan Raiola, "All I Want for Christmas Is You." Preston Taumua,
Okay, so this
Mele
one,
Kalikimaka by
this-
Bing Crosby.
this one may be a stretch, but I'm gonna try it.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with the little drummer boy here.
Okay.
And I'm going to say Caleb Benning, okay? And the reason I have it as Caleb is because when you think of like the literal sense of little drummer boy, it's the one that is kind of like forgotten about. Like when you think of somebody
A little
that,
under the radar.
yeah, something like that. Like I'm trying to use like the little drummer boy in a literal sense. And now I'm going to try to think of the song.
I mean, that's not what I picked.
Okay.
I kind of get what you're saying here. So here's
Don't tell me though. Don't tell me who you have little drummer
Okay.
boy at.
Okay.
Let me choose between Bricks and Nelson.
okay. Focus on
Maybe small town. No,
focus on the lyrics here.
of little drummer boy.
Yes, this is it's a lot about the no, I'm just kidding. No, it's the actual words. That's what I went off of here for Little Drummer Boy, for who I picked here. And this one's probably the biggest stretch, if I'm being honest with you.
So like I'm looking at the lyrics, right, and I know like I have no gift to bring.
So you're too far. You're like the first 3 lines.
Come, they told me, pa-rum-pa-pum-pum.
Okay.
A newborn king to see, pa-rum-pa-pum-pum.
Okay.
That's it?
Who's the king of the recruiting class? No.
In-state?
No. Separate. Somebody you already named. The king of the recruiting class, Dylan Raiola. Right? Who is there to serve Dylan Raiola?
Wow. Big stretch. Both of them are. Bricks and Nelson. They both got to serve him. Where are you leaning? All right, I'm going to go with Grant Bricks.
It is Grant Bricks.
Okay.
It is Grant Bricks.
Yeah,
I told you. This one was the biggest
gracious.
stretch. Listen, it's not a perfect analogy. I told you this is a really dumb game. All right. We did go 2 for 2 easy early though, so
Yeah, those were slam dunks.
give me a little leeway here. All right, so we got Caleb Benning and Carter Nelson left. We got Christmas, Baby Please Come Home for Caleb Benning, or for the list, and we've got Wonderful Christmas Time.
Wonderful Christmas Time. All right, I'm gonna look at those lyrics one more time because you were singing them, and I'm like, all right, I gotta. And I'm gonna go off the beginning because that seems like what Ravi's been going with. So
I mean, honestly, for Baby
Nice.
Please Come Home, you
That's
could
enough.
probably this could apply to both,
Only comes this time of year.
but
Simply having a wonderful Christmas time. And okay.
and Christmas, Baby Please Come Home. Honestly, this one's a lot off the title.
Christmas, I'm watching it fall.
Andrew just doing his little own caroling over here.
Baby, please come home. that's probably what you're focusing on.
It is what I'm focusing
And
on.
Carter Nelson was easier than Caleb Benning. I'm going to say this is Caleb Benning.
Nailed it.
Yeah, baby.
Andy's a legacy, right? So like it's home. Caleb Benning
okay.
is Christmas.
That makes a lot of sense. More than my Little Drummer Boy analogy.
Yes. Yeah, I'll be honest. I had a hard time with Little Drummer Boy and Grant Briggs and finding a song for him, but I feel like Baby Please Come Home makes a ton of sense for Caleb Benning.
And it makes sense, too, for Carter Nelson here because, like, it's just wonderful to have him at the university.
And to beat it's a wonderful Christmas time to beat out Georgia and Notre Dame for a high-level recruit. And
yeah, I feel like we could have come up with a better song for Grant Briggs.
Probably, man. I was 4 out of 5. That's not bad. Carter Nelson's going to be having a wonderful time getting thrown the ball by Dylan Raiola. So there we go. That is our list of Husker recruits as Christmas songs because I'm an idiot. And I was like, this might be fun.
I'm a big fan.
I thought it was fun. Frankly, you did very well of hopping inside my brain and trying to figure out what wires are crossed in there.
I try to think. I try to go the distance, man.
You did really well. 4 out of 5. And the fifth one, like I said, was by far the biggest stretch. So well done on that one. That is our Dingman's Collision Center Friday game. Coming up next, we're going to talk to our guy, Mike Sautter from Hurrdat Sports, get caught up on the basketball scene in the state here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. Kicking off hour number 3 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio on AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We are also on KFOR in Lincoln for this hour number 3, and we are brought to you by Dyer Law. If you've been hurt in a personal injury accident, you can count on the Dyer Law team to provide you with a helping hand when you need it, no matter what you're dealing with. Call the Dyer Law team at 402-393-7529 or visit dyer.law to chat with trusted professionals about your personal injury claim. That's DYER.law. Joining us now is our friend Mike Sautter of Hurrdat Sports, covering all high school. He's covering college basketball as well. Sautter, how are you this morning?
Can't hear myself, but I'm doing great.
What's up, man?
I don't even know if you can hear me.
I can hear you.
There, now I can hear you.
Okay, there we go. Yeah,
The wrong knob was popped.
All right.
You got to be
What'd you
careful.
say?
You got to be careful with those.
What'd you say?
Yeah, you heard me. Yep.
There you
All
go.
the
Is
way
that better?
back down. I have the power.
Is that better? We good?
What'd
We
you
good?
say about?
What are you up to today?
What
Mike,
am I up
it
to
sounds like
today?
you're a little busy
I'm
today.
gonna have a day.
You were busy last night,
Today's
too.
a day.
What
what did I do yesterday?
What are we
Bill West.
talking here?
Today is this here, sitting here at the beautiful Hurrdat Sports Bar Arena. I'm gonna call this the arena.
This is
I
the
don't
venue.
think that's
Venue.
what Bill wants you to call it.
Oh,
The H&H
feels like
Chevrolet.
an
it's the
H&H Chevrolet stage in the Hurrdat Sports Arena.
We
Venue.
could make it an arena, though, with
Yeah.
Shane doing push-ups. Remember that day? Yep.
Yeah, that one should be make the best of.
Yeah, you know what? That should, Shane. Go back and grab that morning dump.
yeah. From
It was from way
Yeah.
back when.
It was the morning dump.
Notice his sweater. Okay, guys, I walk in this
Is that a
morning.
What
corgi?
is- where'd you get
Show
that?
everybody the sweater.
No, it's a reindeer. Okay, it kind of looks like a corgi.
How do I like get
Tis the season.
I
it
don't
says.
know.
Lefty Lucy? Andrew.
What are you doing? Well, this is gonna be a train wreck today.
Shane, I can't show
I think it
Shane,
already
get
is.
up here and show everybody the sweater.
Yeah.
I walk in this morning and this guy tells me that
Goodwill
this
sweater?
sweater. No, he got it from Kohl's
Oh.
for like $4.
Okay.
Okay,
Oh,
there
wrong
it
way.
is. There's
Wrong
the
way.
sweater.
There we go.
Okay.
I thought it was
Is this a $60, $70 sweater on like the daily, like no deal?
Yeah, something like that.
You think that's $70?
No, $70?
like 40,
What's a
50.
daily?
That's
no
what
deal?
I would
like
say.
40, 50.
I walk in, this guy's like, this is a $60, $70 sweater
$14.
that I got for $4. I'm
Yeah.
like, no, you didn't. It's not $70.
Yeah, they're
So,
lying to
I
you. bud.
saw it when I was walking in this morning, and I thought
ain't
it was
lying.
a picture of a corgi in a
It looks
Santa
like
hat.
a corgi.
It kind of does, right? That's a
Show it
corgi
off
face
again, Shane. There
and
you
the
go.
ears. I didn't see
This is
the
great radio, by
antlers
the
at
way.
first
Well,
here.
they can see it on the stream.
I didn't
Yeah,
see
but
the antlers at
Those
first
that
here,
can't.
and I
Sorry.
thought this was a corgi, and I was like, Shane, do you have a corgi that I don't know about? What's happening here?
All right, Shane, no more. Go back to your little Snoopy house.
I said, go back to your Peanuts house over there.
Yeah, you never
Um,
been in there.
The
What am I doing today?
yeah,
So
what-
was that the original question?
Yeah, sure, why not? It doesn't matter.
I'm here,
Yep.
and then I'm gonna go to Metro tournament first round play-in games. I like how they
Is
did
that
that.
the holiday tournament? Same
Metro
thing?
holiday tournament play-in games. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure
Yeah.
the title was the same.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm just asking, man.
All right. Yes.
Coming after
And
me.
So I'm going to that, and then 10:15 at Omaha Westview, which is on the other side of the earth compared to here.
Yep.
And then where am I going after that? Planning on going to Omaha Bryan for the OPS high school wrestling dual tournament. The championship should be around 2.
Okay.
And then I'm going to go to Prep for the Prep invitational wrestling tournament, which the finals should start about 4. Tyson Terry likely getting number 1 versus number 2 matchup in the finals there. Crossing my fingers because that's the plan.
So we're hoping for
at 4, and then back to, and then not back, and then to Bellevue West tonight for some girls Metro Holiday Tournament play-in game stuff at 7:15 or 7:15, 8:45 stuff.
So speaking of Bellevue West, you were at Bellevue West Side last night.
Yeah.
Correct.
Mhm.
How did that go? How
It was
that?
okay.
Don't sound so excited about
Yeah,
it.
for some reason I don't know if it was me or what, but it was okay. Like it wasn't great, but it wasn't like overly high level.
Why is your instant reaction like that though?
I don't know. Maybe
It just didn't wow you. The 2-3 matchup just didn't wow you.
Yeah, it was a good game. I mean, it was 78-66. I mean, there's a lot of points, and Bellevue West is pretty good. Robbie Garcia's had a heck of a year for them. Had a good game last night. Bell West just has, outside of Prep, has the most size in the state, really, in Class A, and experience. They're older and all of those things. So, yeah, that was it wasn't necessarily a surprising score at all. But Westside just didn't shoot it great last night. Didn't rebound it well. Some long rebounds and loose ball stuff that they let kind of slip away. Westside did cut the lead to I think 6 with like 6 minutes left and couldn't really close the gap. But yeah, Westside's got to be a little tougher in some areas, honestly. So they're fine. They'll be fine. The top high school basketball in Class A this year, the top 6, 7, yeah, and then depending on the matchup, like Westside lost to Southeast on Tuesday night.
Mm-hmm.
So and Southeast is unrated and not rated at all. And so I do think like the tops, yeah, any one of the top 6 are going to win the state title, and it's going to really base off matchups when it gets to the state tournament. But I do feel like it's going to be one of those 6.
So Miller North, Bellevue West, West Side, Prep, Gretna, Papio South. Is that your top 6?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you think of Papio La Vista South?
They're good.
Like
good.
What makes them?
Bryson Ball is really good. Like he's really good. And that
Because they had a
is what
nice win
makes
over
them-
Prep already.
Yeah, that's what makes them really good. They're kind of balanced scoring wise too. They got some guys that will bang with you. Grant Beckenauer's one guy that comes to mind. Reese Kircher's a nice point guard for them. Wes Frost can hit some shots like from 3, and but if Bryson Ball is the one guy you got to stop, and everybody knows it, and no one has so far. So he's really good. I mean, yeah, if he just watch out, like he's just a junior. Watch, like if he has a decent April on the AAU circuit, or I guess May is now the first live periods. He's gonna
He'll get some good
blow
looks.
up, man. Like
What-
he's got some elite, South Dakota State, Omaha offers,
Yeah.
stuff like that. Just that people know, like the 2 power conference schools in this state, in Nebraska, they know, like they're very aware of who he is, and they're just waiting to kind of see if he can maybe grow a little, like couple inches or something, or they're waiting their turn, I guess. So yeah.
So what's his? So he projects right now to kind of
He's a 3
mid-major.
Yeah, I think
School.
he's I think he's at least good enough for like a Colorado State type.
Okay, so maybe
Which that Colorado State's a top 25 team this year. So
right,
but
Or like a
Mountain
Mountain
West
type
yeah.
team, not necessarily like
yeah.
probably.
And if a Summit League team gets him, then they just
That's a big
then they
get for them.
stole him.
yeah. But if he has a really big May,
Yeah, he's like 6'5", 6. I mean, he's 5, 6'4", 5. I feel comfortable about that.
So to
And
project to a
Yeah,
Power 5
he needs
wing.
about like an inch or two,
Okay.
and then gain some weight stuff. He's a hard worker. Obviously, the bloodline's tremendous. So, Bryson's really good, man. Like he's a great like human being, which helps obviously, like a great one. So it's he's got a real legit chance. I knew he had a chance when he scored 22 of his team high 27 against New World in the Adidas Summer Championships quarterfinal game. And New World's a bunch of dudes that like from DC that can guard you like in your stuff. And he was killing. That was like, yep, bang.
He's one of those dudes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So one of the other dudes in Nebraska high school basketball this year, Amari Bynum, he's outside. That Brian is outside of that group that you were talking about. Is there
their guard play needs to get a lot better?
So there's no chance that a guy like him could just like dominate a state tournament and kind of come out of nowhere.
Yeah, it'd be hard because he's not a guard. He doesn't have the ball in his hands every time.
But clearly the best player in the state.
He's clearly the most talented player in the state without in any class. It doesn't matter.
Right.
Like he's the most talented God-given
But positionally would make it hard for him to kind of take over.
It'd be hard. Now he's capable of like leading a break, and he dropped a dime the other day against Central, like led the break and just boom, like across the middle, cut the lane and everything. So Amari's great. He is, he's super talented. It's just kind of like what position is he is kind of the question, but he's got a ton of high major offers already.
Yeah,
he'll be. Yeah, he's really good. I just don't know if he can carry it. Just put a team on his back that much and get it done, win 3 games in a row by scoring. He'd have to be like 26 and 15.
Oh, that'd be 30 plus.
Yeah,
probably a night
it'd be tough
for him.
Yeah, their guard play just has to get better.
Okay.
It just does. Rylan Rodriguez is a nice player for them. Brandon Jarman's played well. They got guys like Amir Martin. He needs to play better. They need more consistent play out of the guard spot.
Hey,
Brian.
Jumping over to, and I don't want to skip over Class B too quickly here, but we can go back and revisit it. I just wanted to ask you about the C1 matchup that we saw earlier this week in Ashland Greenwood, Wahoo overtime thriller, unlike Creighton. What did you what do you kind of make of those two teams early on? Like, what are your maybe early season takeaways of both of those?
Yeah,
two teams?
I mean, they're both extremely well coached. They have great coaches. Wahoo, Coach Sheaf's been there forever, won state titles and stuff. And Coach Moses has done a great job at Ashland Greenwood. They returned defending state title, I think, right? Yeah, they won, or 2 years ago they won it, maybe last year too. I think back to back in C1. And the roster has had some turnover too, but a guy to look out for them is a younger guy. I mean, Dane Jacobson, obviously, who's their quarterback. He's going to Concordia to play basketball. That's Cale Jacobson's brother. But he is like the leader. Drake Zimmerman's kind of the bulldog, tough guy, football player that's playing basketball. But a guy to keep an eye on going like down the road as his high school career progresses is Derek Tonjes. He had a great night the other night. He's got some size, 6'5"-ish. Can step out and shoot. He's probably a little bit more of a post than a wing, but he's got a chance to be pretty good. I think he had a great night. I think it was 22 of his 24, 26 points all were in second half and overtime against Wahoo, and Ashland came back to win it. The first part of that, the first quarter was awful. It was clunky and not good offense at all. People weren't hitting shots, and Ashland did a really good job against Marcus Glock, who for right now is probably the C1 player of the year. He's averaging he had like a couple 30-point games in there. So
is that good?
Yeah, he's doing pretty well. And he's going to Northwest Missouri State. That's a nice get for them. Marcus has gotten a little more athletic over the summer and bouncy and stuff. And another, great kid, good bloodline. Dad played in Nebraska, all that stuff. So that game was, people after the game were like, "That was a good game." It was a competitive game. There's a difference between good and competitive, right? So another game where like shot first time I'd been to a game without a shot clock in a while. And I was like, oh, yeah, this is what it feels like. I remember this.
This is what the 46-42 game feels
yeah,
like.
Little, not quite as like ball skipping, not moving as fast type of stuff. So it was a little more meat grinder defensive efforts.
Okay, so going back to Class B now, and I wanted to start at the top, but I think I'm going to ask this question instead because you mentioned roster turnover in your previous answer. You look at the team close to the bottom of the rankings in Platteview, Connor Milliken lists. Connor Milliken less. Did I say that right?
Less.
Less.
Yeah.
Without
this season, but going from
they're playing fine.
Going from not rated to back in the rankings is good for Platteview.
Yeah, Platteview has a lot of size. The guard play needs to get better, but they do have a lot of size. So Zebert's a guy. Obviously, we talked about him, football stuff last week or 2 weeks ago. Can't remember. But he's playing and he's an athlete, and they have some big guys like that are fine. But B's going to be one of 4 teams. It's going to be Crete, Norris, Scott, and
Elkhorn.
Elkhorn's pretty good. Speaking of size, Peterson in the middle for them, shot blocker and rim protector guy for them. So the EMC conference tournament starts today and then finishes next weekend after the break. 5-day moratorium starts tomorrow. So the EMC tournament in B will be pretty good. Like, it's going to be uber competitive. I think Elkhorn North plays somebody tonight at 5:30. I thought about going to that. 5:15.
You're gonna try to fit that into your busy schedule.
4:15, 5:15, something like that. So, and Elkhorn North's a young team, but they've got a couple of nice wins. Beat a Hastings squad that was playing pretty well. So, yeah.
Wanted to switch gears here and move to college basketball. I know you were out at Nebraska and North Dakota on Wednesday.
Yes, I was.
What a scare that was.
That was a very dicey game for Nebraska. Obviously down 10.5, down 14 at one point. First, let's spin this positive. What did you like about what they were able to show in coming back and being able to come back?
Okay, first of all, they absolutely lose that game any other year, any other team.
Yes,
besides this year.
Thank goodness.
There's been a couple of those this year, right? I think
this game for sure they're losing.
But
like the game before Christmas, I mean, remember, Samford.
Okay, sure, yeah.
You know, like this was the one that
change.
Yeah, this was the one that they lost, and CJ even said it after the game. Like CJ Wilcher did. He said, "This is a game. Like
these are games we've lost."
But like it's the I use the term, and coach, I guess, use the term resiliency, and they were resilient to come back and win that game. I mean, they couldn't get a rebound, couldn't get a loose ball. They just didn't have it.
Kind of felt like they were dead to rights at one point.
Yeah, I mean, you're down 14 in the second half.
Yeah,
early in the second half,
and not showing much.
Yeah, couldn't really score, couldn't really defend. Now, part of that too is both teams took the same amount of 3-point shots and made the same amount as 11 of 32 or something, which is a tremendous number. Like, that's a high number, over 30. But that's what North Dakota does. They take and make big shots.
And no rink mast.
Yeah, yes. I didn't get to that. But North Dakota's best player, that was just his second game back. So you don't have a lot of tape on him. And he's older. He's transferred back to two-time transfer guy. And he played really well. So they didn't have a lot on him. But rink is I wrote this in my takeaways from the game, which you can find on hurrdatsports.com, I think, /Hail Varsity. So I wrote it again. He is absolutely the key for this team. 100%. Like, he is the most important player. He might not be the best or gifted or whatever.
Most valuable.
He is absolutely the most important, most valuable, whatever player, whatever you want to say, he is. Like, I don't think they can win in the Big Ten without him. It's going to be a big time struggle.
It's a tough hill to climb.
Big time struggle. His presence alone, and frankly, even they got Nebraska out offensive rebound by like 8, 10, something, whatever it was, against North Dakota.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of that was long misses or long shots,
Right, long
long
boards.
rebounds.
Mm-hmm.
But he would at least be able to tip them to himself or something, you know, like around the rim. They just didn't have that. And he totally would have changed the game. Just his presence alone. You get him the ball in a post, he does that little baby hook and jump hook thing he does.
Defensively,
Yeah.
he's a lot quicker than he
Probably
probably
he'd be fine.
appears
And he's
to
a
be.
banger. Like there's a lot of those things, and Nebraska missed some. I mean, just layups at the rim. I mean, it was not good. So, he's so important for them, and hopefully they're hoping he only misses these 2 games. Because I mean, frankly, they can beat South Carolina State with, you
would hope so.
That would
Yeah.
not be. Yeah. That would be
disastrous. I think it's the
that would
word.
be awful. But look at it, 10-2 for the first time since 2018.
Mhm.
December 22nd, 2018 was the last time they were 10-2.
Hey, it's December 22nd today.
Yeah, I know. It's weird. Weird how that happens.
So if I were to
calendar.
if I were to have told you before the season started that this team would be 10-2, would you
10-2 before Christmas?
Yeah, 10-2 before Christmas. Would you have
No,
said
I would've-
exactly what I expected? Would you have said, "Can't believe it actually happened," or went to plan, or "I didn't think they had it in them"?
I would say it is a tick better than what I expected. I think you looked at the 3 non-con games, Creighton, K-State, Oregon State, and you're like, okay,
They should beat Oregon State.
They
They're
could-
bad.
yeah, like, but at K-State, that one it's not the same K-State team, obviously.
No, but Power 5 road
even
game.
even before the
But
game,
holding them
in
to
a
12 points is pretty fire.
yeah, in a tough environment,
In one
you
half,
know,
I should say.
like tough environment and all that. You before the season, you chalk that up as like, okay, like if they can get out of there with that one. The one loss, the Minnesota loss, is just like that's gonna haunt them.
Mhm.
Like not
As-
haunt them, but I will say this:
As well it should.
I think it made them better. I really do.
Well, and I agree with that because when Ravi and I reacted to that game and it was after Michigan State's
Mhm.
win too, it
Right.
almost seemed backwards
It
how they
was.
should have lost that game and
Right.
won against Minnesota. But because of that, I kind of agree.
I think
with where
they
your head's
learned a
going
lot
there.
about themselves and kind of what they need to do. And I think the Minnesota game helped them beat North Dakota.
Yeah, fair.
Like I really do. So that's the one that's like, ugh.
Take the good with the bad.
Like
though.
to have that one back.
Like winning a Big Ten or conference road game is really hard to do, and no matter the conference you're in.
and at
And
Minnesota
they had one.
the most gettable of
Yes,
those.
they had one.
Yeah.
And they let it get away. So, I mean, shoot, they would have been 11-1 right now. That'd be really good.
That'd have been
Like-
a lot higher than you
Now,
expected, not
you-
just a tick.
When Nebraska comes back, they play, they after South Carolina State, it gets a little, Indiana, winnable game. If Rink plays, for sure, winnable game. But like Indiana's not great,
Mhm.
right? Especially on the road, right? So, but then you got Purdue.
Well, you go at Wisconsin.
Yeah, at
then
Wisconsin,
Purdue,
tough game. Purdue.
Then at Iowa.
Purdue's at home. They should have beat them last
Still.
year.
Like,
right?
number 1 team in the country. Like
Yes, they're
so-
very good.
And
But
last
they
year,
did
I think
lose-
They were number 1 team in the country or number 2.
They
or
did
something.
lose to Northwestern, who lost to Chicago State following, like right after
That's
that. So
fair. I'm just saying.
I'm saying there's a chance.
Sure.
So,
you're telling
and
me
then
I
you
wouldn't
have,
count on. Then you got at Iowa.
yeah, at Iowa, tough game because
And
it's
then
at Iowa.
At Rutgers. Which
At
is one of the
Rutgers,
harder places to play in the
really
country.
hard, really tough. You
I don't
want
care
Rutgers
what Rutgers team is
Yeah.
on the floor. That's a
One of the
hard
hardest
place
places
to
to
play.
play.
at the
like,
rack
genuine.
real hard.
Yeah.
You want Rutgers that on your not there, right?
Yes.
So that's a tough game. So like you
You got a tough 5 game.
you
stretch
could
here.
go 0 and you could if you're 3-3 in the league, like in those first 6, you feel pretty good.
Yeah.
If you're better than that, you feel really
Feel
good.
incredible. 3-3 would be a huge win
Yeah,
in the first
yeah.
6.
But you could make a case where it could go 0 and 6 too for
Yeah.
this first 6, which is not ideal, right? And this team, I don't think that'll happen. But
No.
like you could be like, oh, maybe.
I think you have to get 2.
yeah,
minimum.
yeah,
have
2
to.
and 4 in that stretch, I don't think is horrible.
wouldn't be bad
No.
either. But if you're, 3-3 would be great. That's probably the goal. And then if you're anything better than that, holy cow,
Yeah,
like it's
you
pretty
feel
good.
great about that.
Yeah. There's winnable games in there, but we'll see. This team's good. They're better than last year. Culture's set. Like guys play hard. Guys like each other. Getting Rink back is massively important, and hopefully he'll be back for Indiana.
Coming up next, the Warhorse Sportsbook Sports Cleanup here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. It's time for the Warhorse Sportsbook Sports Cleanup. Warhorse Sportsbook, no bets, no glory. Tons of stuff happening, not just today, but also throughout the week that we weren't quite able to get to. The thing that I want to get to first is Florida State exploring leaving the ACC. Obviously, they're still upset about the being excluded from the college football playoff, and rightfully so. So they've started to explore options. They feel it's the ACC's fault, A, for not providing a competitive enough environment, B, for not campaigning for FSU the way the SEC campaigned for Alabama, and C, because according to Florida State, they are falling $30 million a year behind the SEC teams every single year. So they have started looking into the possibility of leaving. Now, the ACC has this grant of rights deal that has been the bane of Florida State and Clemson's and a bunch of these teams' existence, because it's not just Florida State. If you remember over the summer, there were 7 teams.
When did they sign that deal? Was it 2020? Was it 2020?
No, this was a long time ago. It was a 20-year deal. They signed it in like 2016.
Okay.
And they extended it. It was extended in 2016.
And this should be a learning lesson too for every college football program, not just college sports program. We'll just say college out there because it's not really the sports program. It's just every college out there. Don't lock yourself in for an eternity because you never know what could change in a year's time, in 5 years' time, in 10 years' time. And we know that the game is ever changing. We didn't expect, I don't know if anybody ever expected it to be as conference realignment like as we're seeing it, but this is exactly why you don't tie yourself down to something like this.
And not just that, but they didn't leave themselves any outs either. That's the big problem here, is that not only did they sign up for a 20-year deal, but they signed up for a 20-year deal that has escalating withdrawal penalties in addition to exiting the grant of rights. So you've got the grant of rights withdrawal penalty, which is about $120 million. And then you've also got a severe ACC withdrawal penalty, which Pete Thamel is reporting as somewhere in the neighborhood of $235 million. So you're talking about at least $350 million to get out of the ACC, which is not a feasible sum. Now, Florida State's telling people that the sum is actually closer to $500 million with some of the other fees that would be tacked on there. But that's the lesson here. It's not, yes, you want to not tie yourself down for 20 years. But if you do, you have to give yourself options to get out, because this is the Scottie Pippen problem, right? He signed that long deal with the Chicago Bulls because he wanted security over.
Yeah, sometimes it's nice to feel like you have,
you're going to get paid.
You're a plan
for a long time, right? With all the conference realignment, I think the ACC took advantage of some teams that were uncomfortable. I don't know why Florida State agreed to it. That's what I can't figure out. Because
the ACC was fine at that time, right? Because Florida State's coming off a recent BCS national championship. You have Clemson that was winning national titles around that time too. So the ACC was doing fine, which is easy for you to be like, oh, okay, we're a booming conference.
Sure.
Let's stick around for a while. But the problem with that idea is if you don't leave yourself any wiggle room to be in some sort of control and you just give your life over to your conference, now you have to suffer through it. And so it's unfortunate to Florida State. It's unfortunate to Clemson. It's unfortunate to UNC, but it's going to be ridiculously difficult
to get out.
And you just have to be okay with that now.
They're going to have, they basically only have one option, and that's to sue them for some sort of either negligence or whatever. And here's the only thing I can think of is, so part of the reason you need to give yourself an out is because you can't count on your conference to guarantee that they will continue to negotiate the best deals. That's where this fell apart. The SEC and Big Ten got way better deals than the ACC did, even though you can make an argument with the inventory you're talking about in terms of high-quality teams. You've got some blue bloods in there. You've got some currently relevant teams in there, and you've got some teams that when or if they get back up, like Miami, are really big brands. The ACC did a bad job renegotiating, and now they've fallen behind. You can't leave yourself in the position where you're at the mercy of a conference commissioner to negotiate the right deal. That, I think, is their only out, is they may be able to sue the ACC for basically either like negligence or malpractice of, okay, the SEC got this, the Big Ten got this. Why did you only get this? That's malfeasance, malpractice, whatever you want to call it. That's their only chances. They're going to have to sue to get out of this thing.
But court's not going to be any cheaper.
It may not be cheaper, but man, you're talking about 20 more. So if you just do the math here, right? If they're falling $30 million behind every year, they've still got 13 more years left of this. That's almost $400 million right there. That's assuming that they don't start falling even further behind if the SEC or the Big Ten renegotiate.
Both of those
that number's only going to keep getting higher.
It's going to get higher.
And so you're talking about a minimum of $400 million, and you're probably getting pretty close to that $500 million mark that you're talking about anyway to get out of the conference.
And also, if you go through court, you also have to win.
You do have to win.
That's the big thing to think about here.
Or you have to settle. So there's two options here. Either they have a real case against the ACC, or the ACC has bungled this so badly that there's embarrassing enough details that they don't want it to get out, and they settle on like $100 million or whatever to get out of. Because I think Florida State would pay $100 million to get out of the ACC tomorrow, because they'd make that up in 3 years. Like, you get that back in 3 years if you move to a conference that has the big time.
It's a little more difficult to
TV
pay $560.
560, 572 is what Pete Thamel's reporting. That's a lot bigger number. So we're going to keep an eye on that situation as Florida State and the ACC seem to be heading toward each other for a legal battle over the future of the conference. The other wild card here, if Florida State can convince over half the league to leave the ACC, the grant of rights deal becomes null and void.
Yeah, and it'll be hard because they were close last time, but they still only had 7. And if you weren't able to get 8 the first time, I mean, maybe you can get them this time because you have a little bit more of pull based on how you finished in the college football playoff rankings, and you could get one team.
To us, it
you could get one team to move from one side of the table to the other, but it's still going to be difficult for them.
It's going to be really difficult. It might be easier than trying to win in the courts, though. But that's the other option. If they get more than half the league to bail, the league no longer exists, and all of the contracts become voided for that purpose, at least of the grant of rights. So we'll keep an eye on that as that continues to develop. I imagine that is not going to be a quick resolution there, but it is what it is, and it's hard to blame Florida State for being mad there. Speaking of conference realignment, the Pac-12, or what's left of the Pac-12, Oregon State, Washington State, reached a scheduling alliance with the West Coast Conference as affiliate members in all of their sports except football.
They also settled with the departing Pac-12 schools.
They did, for an undisclosed number, which means that those two are getting paid, and they retain control of the Pac-12. That is the big thing there. That means that they will have the opportunity to try and rebuild the Pac-12, because the NCAA allows 2 years to get up to that 10-team number. Right. You have to have 10 teams.
They're just buying themselves some time.
Yes, they have 2 years to find 10 teams that want to be in the Pac-12. I guess they'd be able to do it, whether it's a San Diego State or some Mountain West teams or whatever. It may not be a good Pac-12, but I think there will be a Pac-12 moving forward.
I'll be curious to see what it actually looks like and what it shakes out to be.
Honestly, I think it's mostly just going to be the Mountain West, and they're going to rename it the Pac-12 because the Pac-12 has like a prestige of being I think one of the oldest. It might be the oldest. I think it's just younger than the Big Ten, actually, in terms of the oldest conferences in the country. So a ton of prestige, a ton of history there. I think it's basically going to be Mountain West version 2.0, but that was a big time landmark for them as well.
How about the Dodgers spending over $1 billion on 2 players? Yamamoto is now a Dodger for 12 years, $325 million.
He is the pitcher out of Japan. People are obsessed with this dude.
And he's a beast. Like,
he
if you
is.
look at what like he brings to the table, he's not a big guy.
No.
He's only like 5'10", but he throws 99. He's got some nasty stuff. He's got a nice split finger as well. He's going to be a good player, but spending over $1 billion, and I know some of that money was deferred with Ohtani initially, but you're still going to have to pay the man.
That check's coming
Spending
due.
$1 billion on 2 players is just nonsensical to me.
It really is. And, we saw with the Angels, takes more than a couple guys to be good. Now, the Dodgers have quite a bit they're adding them to already, but that's a boatload of money. I will say his delivery reminds me a little bit of Daisuke Matsuzaka, which should freak you out a little bit.
He's
at least
quick
it does
too,
me.
and he moves like a high school pitcher, but when he releases that ball, it comes out of his hand fast.
It explodes out of his hand.
Florida State could use some of that money.
That is the Warhorse Sportsbook Sports Cleanup. Coming up next, we've got Matt Vrzal on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back.
Wrapping up the show on a Friday and for the year 2023 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio on AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, and KFOR in Lincoln. And what better way to do that than with our friend Matt Vrzal, former Husker and owner of Paisans Pizzeria. Verz, how are you this morning?
Good, boys. How are you?
Hey, Verz, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas as well.
What is what's the plan over there at Paisans during the holidays? You guys get busy with a bunch of takeout orders for family stuff, or you guys slow down a little bit?
No, it's we get busier, so we are holding on for dear life. We actually, some guy and his wife got all pissed off at me last night, but the only dough we had left was dough that we had just made, so
he
was not
what was he
ready to use.
What was he exactly mad about?
He walked in and I just said, "Hey, dude, all I got is fryer." I was like, "The dough I have is brand new. I can't use it," and he stomped out. I think he MF'd me, but some customers, the feeling is mutual. So
I got to tell you, Verz, I
lost sleep over it.
I don't know if I would ever have the stones to MFU. Like, just saying.
It was his wife. His wife said it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
She's a peach. Let me tell you.
Well,
yeah, good problem to have. We did the best we could. We sold out of dough. So I mean, there's nothing he could. I told him, I was like, "You can call me whatever you want. Be as mad as you want." It's like I can get you fryer items. So, but no, we're hunkered down for today. We got a bunch. So it'll be busy. It's kind of fun. Kids that I've coached over the years, some of them from other schools now that live in Omaha. I saw the guy last night that made the critical mistake of hiring Ryan Terwilliger at Malcolm High School when he was 24, and then Ryan Terwilliger making even worse judgment hiring me at age 23. And so Mr. Tarr and his son Jack coached his beautiful wife, and her mother were in last night, so I got to visit with them. But this is a fun time. We get to see the kids that
that's cool.
You've coached and they moved on and have kids, and we're 10 years into Paisans, so we've got a good customer base, and we had some kids that went down to graduate school in New Mexico. They were in the other day, so it's been fun.
Verz, speaking of being a kid again, this could be a dumb question because maybe I'm just completely off, like just out of the know, but a signing day question for you. Okay. Back when you committed to be a Husker, what were signing days like back then? Were they as highly attended and extravagant as they are now?
They didn't even exist.
All right.
You probably weren't even born.
Well, you signed what, in 92?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. You called them. They talked on the phone. Now, when you actually signed the paper, they just faxed it in. It wasn't the hoopla and the hat dance and all that stuff. We stood on business back then.
When do you remember when that changed? Like when it started to be a deal? Was it when they because I can't really, it's always sort of been like that since I followed it. Was that like part of the recruiting site era deal?
I think it's more where you lived.
Okay.
Emmett Smith, back in the day, I think they had a thing at his high school.
Gotcha.
And Nebraska was in on him. He showed up in a pair of red overalls.
Mm.
And so everybody was all jazzed up. and then he kind of middle fingered us and signed with Florida. So I would say let's just blame Emmitt Smith.
I'm totally okay with that. I think Nebraska probably would have been a better choice there for Emmitt, but that's okay. Verz, as you kind of look at the way the first two recruiting classes for Coach Rule have been, he signed 11 offensive linemen in the first 2 years. In your mind, how long? I know there's some guys you already like already, Justin Evans-Jenkins from a couple classes ago, Sam Sledge from last year's class. How long in your mind do you think it typically takes for these types of groups to start to be able to develop physically enough and mentally enough to be able to contribute on the field?
I think I not dodging anything or being a vanilla answer, but depends on the development of the kid.
Sure.
Some kids are just more advanced.
Yeah.
Okay. They've had a different strength program at their high school. They've had different coaching. They're just ahead. So I think what Nebraska staff, and they have recruited a bunch of offensive linemen, which is great, but their roster and the setup of their roster dictated that. So they've now assessed that, which I'm really impressed with. Like they assess need and thus far assess talent really, really well. Like I like how they do. I like how they kind of formulate that out. The piece that, in a range nowadays where you'd like to see the kid play would be year 2 in the program. Now, that doesn't necessarily have to be a starter, but he's got to be somebody that's in a rotation. He's got to be somebody that, if he does start, great. But, their second year in the program, which is a quick timeline. It used to be 3, if not 4 years in the program, you'd see him because now you're fully developed. That time frame has changed quite a bit in college football. So it's a little quicker. The learning curve has to be faster, and the strength and conditioning has to really be on par.
You said you've been really impressed with this staff and how they've evaluated talent and assessed need. Where are from the linemen that they've recruited, what do you think the profile is? Because they talk about physical profile a lot, especially with the kind of the skill position guys with like height, weight, explosiveness, whatever. What do you think the profile it is that they're recruiting to at the offensive line spot?
I would say you're in that 6'2" to 6'6" range. And you can go taller than that. I'm sure some of the guys, somebody will tweet me that they were taller than that in this class. That's fine. I don't trust roster height. So
I was 5'11" on the roster verse. So yeah, that you shouldn't trust it.
the part of it that I probably, you can notice is a leaner athlete, meaning that they have an athletic build. Like in the videos, people will want to watch the football video, and they're very, very important. But if you can get them where they're just in motion, okay, there's things to be said about an athletic gait, like the way people walk.
Sure.
Now, I'm not talking like slew-footed Jay Foreman, but like a real, like you kind of hit the outside ball of your foot.
Yeah.
And you just kind of see that. And the fact that, some of these guys are playing multiple sports, they're wrestlers, they're basketball players, they're doing these things. In today's world, a lineman that can do that, you're different. You're more athletic than most. So that athletic 6'2" to 6'7", 6'8", 6'6" range, and you're 260, you're not coming in at that 305 plus, and they're going to cut you down and then build you back up. They want a frame they can build on. I think that's what they target pretty well. Now, there are outliers though, because Evans-Jenkins does not fit that mold.
Sure.
But Evans-Jenkins got some sweet feet, baby, and he got humbled. He got humbled by the end, and he did, and he got whooped. But the thing of football, if you find a lineman offensively or defensively that is undefeated, that guy's probably in the Hall of Fame.
Sure.
Like everybody gets got.
Verz, in the spirit of the holidays, what's on your Husker football wish list right now? What's either the number one thing or some of the things you'd like to see done from this Husker staff the rest of the offseason?
I think I think that the off-season piece of it, it's probably good to get out and give the kids a chance to reboot. Now, if you give them opportunity, say, hey, you can go home over this break, or we're going to have these guys doing this. A good gauge of where you're at is how many guys just stay around. Like, no, I'm going to stay. I'm going to go home for Christmas, and I'll be back on the 27th. Those guys that want to be around and continue to put in work, there's an infinite piece of things that you can always work on. So what is your receiver group doing, right? That's probably the one that needs to move the most. Like you've got to get some viable options for, what you've hoped you could get at quarterback, and now you have it. So what does that room look like? Are your running backs, working on ball security 24/7? If they fumbled or if they haven't fumbled? Do your defensive linemen, are you putting size on some of those other guys so Robinson and Huntmacher aren't two of the most in shape 315+ pound guys in the world? So that's kind of where I would be looking at.
Matt Vrzal, former Husker, owner of Pison's Pizzeria. Verz, we appreciate your time, as always, that you give to us every week. We know you're crazy busy. We'll be off next week, so I just want to say Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. Hope you have a good New Year, and keep your head above water there with all those pizza orders.
Oh, yeah, we'll get her handled. It'll be stressful for a little bit. But, yeah, have a Merry Christmas, fellas.
Thank you, man.
That is Matt Vrzal on the Warhorse Sportsbook Hotline. As we wrap up for the year, just want to say thank you to all of our listeners for all the support this year. Hope you have a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. Andrew, enjoy your time at home.
Hey, you enjoy your time here in Omaha with your friends.
I will be here in Omaha, because that's my home. Enjoy your time back in St. Louis. Everybody have a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. Shano, thank you for all you do. This has been Hurrdat Sports Radio for 2023. We'll see you on January 2nd.